After Yuanwan sent Han Xianyu off, she suddenly remembered the voice messages Gong Su sent. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Is this guy magic or something? Why doesn't he set up a stall to read people's fortunes? He got so many things right even when he was just blabbering casually. He could totally steal some fortune-telling business from me. In the next 2 days, Yuanwan took note of Zhou Wenbin's movements while she quickly went through the script with Luo Chen. Zhou Wenbin didn't seem to be plotting anything. Yuanwan had no idea what he had up his sleeves. As for Gong Su, he had always been very high profile. The whole world knew he was looking for someone, and not only did he mobilize his fans, but he even mobilized everyone around him. Now the entire industry knew about it. Luckily, Yuanwan rarely dressed as a girl in her neighborhood and would wear a mask if she did. Even if anyone saw her in the shop that day, the possibility of finding her was slim. This kind of incident would probably pass after a week when they couldn't find her, so Yuanwan wasn't very worried about it and focused on preparing for the casting. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the casting. The launch of the Terrifying Dragon 2 project caused a huge buzz. Many actors worked very hard to get a piece of the action. On the day of the casting, a few actors arrived very early at the casting venue. Since Song Jinlin and the others hadn't arrived, the actors gathered together and started chatting. I heard Ling Xiaozhe is already confirmed as the male lead. Of course he is. Not only was he part of the original cast of Terrifying Dragon, he also calls the shots at Emperor Sky Entertainment, and he's insanely popular now. Now that he's willing to make some time to continue acting in this role, that's exactly what the director wants, a starlet said in a matter-of-fact tone. I heard they wanted to use the original cast for the filming of Terrifying Dragon 2. Just as these people were chatting amongst themselves, Yuanwan walked in with Luo Chen. Everyone looked up. The moment they noticed the two people who walked in, their gazes became odd. Original cast? Oh, here comes another one from the cast. One of the starlets sized up Luo Chen, who was standing beside Yuanwan, a tinge of ridicule in his eyes. Before, when Terrifying Dragon was just released, this Luo Chen was also popular for a period of time, but now. That person didn't finish his sentence, but the others knew exactly what he meant. Luo Chen's performance in Terrifying Dragon wasn't bad. He also used to be really popular, but this only lasted a year. After that, there was no news of Luo Chen at all, while Ling Xiaozhe, who debuted at the same time as him and acted in Terrifying Dragon with him, became more and more successful. Today, he was at a position where ordinary actors couldn't compare to him. They were two people who came from the same TV series, yet after a few years, they were a world apart. Terrifying Dragon 2 mentioned they preferred the original cast, but that's not set in stone. Luo Chen has been so quiet all these years, how could it be that easy for him to come back to fight for this part? I heard that the supporting role has already been given to Su Ming behind closed doors. Su Ming? Isn't he the godson of one of the sponsors for Terrifying Dragon 2? Then I think Luo Chen probably doesn't stand a chance anymore. What does he expect? Does he really think he's still the same actor as before? He only became slightly famous from a little Weibo post. He should be grateful he's even being considered for the casting. The starlets gathered together and mocked him between themselves. None of them thought that Luo Chen had the slightest chance of getting the supporting role. Although they weren't speaking loudly, their conversation was more or less heard by Luo Chen and Yuanwan. Luo Chen's face stiffened when he heard Su Ming's name. Yi Ji. Luo Chen wanted to speak, but he stopped and looked at Yuanwan. The level of trust in his eyes had obviously decreased. Yuanwan looked at Luo Chen's expression. She raised her brows and asked, "Why? Scared now?" Luo Chen shook his head immediately. "No, I don't think about anything else. Just remember that from the moment the casting begins, you're Lin Luo Chen." Yuanwan looked into Luo Chen's unsettled eyes with vigor. Luo Chen looked at Yuanwan's eyes and his heart shuddered. He lowered his gaze and recalled everything Yuanwan had done to prepare him for the casting as he clenched his fists. Yi painstakingly planned and prepared this rare opportunity for me. I must not let him down. When Luo Chen lifted his head once again, the unsettledness in his eyes had disappeared completely. Yi Wanwan saw the determination in Luo Chen's eyes and the corners of her lips lifted into a smile. Just at this moment, Su Ming, who was accompanied by his manager, walked into the studio. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. The artists who were still engrossed in their discussion immediately went silent after they saw Su Ming walk in. Su Ming had a rather impressive figure. His looks were in line with the current aesthetic taste of the moment, and he had a height of around 1.8 meters, as tall as a clothes rack. There was nothing much to pick on him about his personality, and on top of that, he wasn't bad at acting. He had been having strong momentum in the entertainment industry the past few years, and his popularity was continuing to soar. Su Ming strode into the studio, and the pair of arrogant eyes on his self-assured face swept around the studio. His manager, following behind him, smiled. Ah Ming, Director Song, and the others haven't arrived yet. Please wait here for a while. Su Ming nodded lightly. When his gaze hovered over Luo Chen and Yi Wanwan, who were a few steps away, his brows raised instinctively. The manager noticed Su Ming looking in that direction and followed his line of sight. He said, Ah Ming, Luo Chen's here today too, probably to audition for the supporting role as well. I know, Su Ming replied casually. Su Ming suddenly walked towards Luo Chen and Yi Wanwan. Luo Chen was adjusting his state of mind and mentally preparing for the casting later on when he saw Su Ming walking over with his manager. His eyes flashed slightly as he subconsciously glanced at Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan calmly gave Luo Chen a meaningful glance, hinting at him to hold his horses. She then turned to look at Su Ming, who was making his way over. In terms of his appearance, Su Ming could be considered quite attractive. In her past life, the role of Lin Luo Chen in Terrifying Dragon 2 was played by Su Ming. Even though Su Ming had the advantage of a sponsor, his acting wasn't bad, and because of Terrifying Dragon 2, his popularity soared even higher. It was just that. Comparing their acting skills alone, there was a huge gap between Su Ming and Luo Chen. This was also why Yi Wanwan dared to allow Luo Chen to fight for the role of Lin Luo Chen. Luo Chen. Su Ming walked over to Luo Chen and Yi Wanwan. He raised his brows and had a condescending look in his eyes. Su Ji. Luo Chen was younger than Su Ming by a year, and although they had never spoken before, it was better to be more polite. Su Ming smiled. Luo Chen, I watched the first Terrifying Dragon that you were in. It was amazing. I really liked Lin Luo Chen's role as well. There was a hint of surprise in Luo Chen's eyes. Su Ming actually praised him. Luo Chen could only respond politely. But before Luo Chen could say anything, Su Ming suddenly made a detour. But after all these years, you never acted in any shows, and now you suddenly want to act in Terrifying Dragon 2. I wonder if your skills are. As he spoke, Su Ming sized up Luo Chen and said, as an actor, I understand how scary it is for your acting skills to decline after going on a hiatus for a couple years. But don't worry. Even though you won't be able to handle the role of Lin Luo Chen, you can still look for other walk-on parts in Terrifying Dragon 2. Although what Su Ming said sounded quite courteous, there was sarcasm concealed within each and every word. The few artists who were watching the scene naturally heard the sarcasm in Su Ming's tone. He was clearly mocking Luo Chen for showing up to free ride on the popularity of Terrifying Dragon 2, even though he didn't have any skills in acting. Su Ming's right. Luo Chen disappeared for such a long time, and he only ever acted in the first series of Terrifying Dragon in his entire career, right? He really thinks he can take away the role of Lin Luo Chen from Su Ming, huh? Exactly, he doesn't have an understanding of his own abilities and thinks that victory is in his hands due to being from the original cast, huh? He should see for himself. Now, regardless of whether it's skills, popularity, or background, he can't compare with Su Ming. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. One may say that Su Ming was very arrogant. But he could afford to be arrogant, he had both skills and a strong backer. Although his acting skills were a far cry from old-school artists, if Su Ming was compared to a group of young idols, his acting skills would be considered pretty good. For example, the classic bad example, Gong Su, even though he gained popularity through his stunning looks and abundance of wealth, his acting was too horrible to even watch, he could only show one facial expression from start to finish. He couldn't even remember his lines and only said the numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6 while acting, forcing the dubber to add his lines in manually. Photoshop cutouts, using substitutes, and all kinds of other shady techniques weren't out of the ordinary. So a young man like Su Ming who was popular, had a sponsor as his backer and had average acting skills was already considered quite remarkable. No wonder he got the part of Lin Luo Chen in Yi Wanwan's past life. If the director was anybody else, Yi Wanwan wouldn't have dared to bet that Luo Chen could fight with Su Ming, but the director this time was Song Jin Lin, the Song Jin Lin who revived the second season of Terrifying Dragon, to fulfill Lin Zong's final wish. To him, the most important principle, more important than having sponsors or the original cast, was the artist's acting skills and also, his perception of the role. In her past life, Su Ming was the best candidate according to Song Jin Lin. However, if there was someone more suitable for the role than Su Ming. The hype she created for Luo Chen was simply to help him gain entry into the competition. Right here was where Luo Chen's real fight would begin. Facing everyone's ridicule and insults, Yi Wanwan curled her lips upwards and said casually, "If you're talking about fame, background, or backing, Luo Chen doesn't compare to Su Ming, he's not even as good as anyone else here. But since today's the casting, the judges only care about one thing, talent. And from what I heard just now, Mr. Su seems to have a misunderstanding of my artist's abilities. I'm afraid I have to let you all down today. If there's nothing going on behind the scenes, then based on acting skills alone, nobody can replace Luo Chen in playing the part of Lin Luo Chen." Yi Wanwan's words immediately caused an uproar. Damn! This person really dares to talk big. Nobody can replace Luo Chen in playing the part of Lin Luo Chen. He isn't scared of getting his tongue twisted for bragging, huh? This new manager is too cocky. You mean brainless? He dared to spout nonsense even at times like this, he's just ruining his own reputation. When Su Ming heard what she said, his face darkened. His manager, Wu Zhengfei, looked at Yi Wanwan and sneered, "Tisk, Manager Yi, don't be so boastful. If you get slapped in the face later, I'm afraid that wouldn't look too good, huh?" Yi Wanwan waved him off. "Then why don't we have a live telecast, a public casting?" Wu Zhengfei instantly furrowed his brows when he heard her words. Yi Wanwan turned directly to Su Ming and asked, "Why?" "You don't dare." There was a storm of protest after Yi Wanwan said that. Damn, is he crazy? He actually requested a public live telecast of the casting. Is he not embarrassed enough? What do you guys know? This Yi Bai is so crafty, he was able to bring an artist past his prime into a casting like this, how could he not have any tricks up his sleeve? He's obviously trying to freeride on Su Ming's fame. So that's why, he clearly knows he'll lose without a doubt, yet he still wants to take advantage of Su Ming's popularity. He's really shameless. Everyone was in the middle of a heated discussion when the director, assistant director, producer, and the others entered one after another. Some of them had overheard the conversation between Yi Wanwan and Su Ming. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Song Jin Lin stopped in his tracks and took a glance in the direction of the young manager who had just spoken so wildly. Su Ming was young and impulsive, how could he tolerate Yi Wanwan talking to him like this? Furthermore, he had always been known as the best actor among the young idols and was relatively confident about his acting. Thus, Su Ming immediately walked up to Song Jin Lin and said, "Director Song, I request a public casting. In case someone gets jealous in the future and spreads rumors that I got this role through the back door." Public casting? Song Jin Lin was slightly doubtful when he heard that. Yes. Ah Ming, don't be rash. There's no need to bother with a buffoon who only knows how to exploit others. Wu Zhengfei quickly pulled Su Ming away. But Su Ming didn't care. He looked at Luo Chen directly and said, Luo Chen, dare to make a bet with me? Luo Chen clenched his fists slightly. Bet on what? Su Ming said proudly, if I win, record a video of yourself telling all the netizens and fans of the original work that you, Luo Chen, aren't good enough for the role of Lin Luo Chen. Wu Zhengfei wanted to stop Su Ming at first, but after hearing what Su Ming said, he hesitated. For sequels like this, the most troubling issue was that the fans of the original work would compare the original to the sequel. If they were able to tarnish Luo Chen's image in his fans' hearts in the process of today's casting, that would be very beneficial for Su Ming. He already had some inside information about Luo Chen. He hadn't taken on any projects in the past 3 years, according to the internal staff at Dazzling Media. Also, the video which made him famous took an entire day to film, as he had NG countless times before they could capture that scene. As for Su Ming, he spent a lot of money and hired a teacher to give him 6 months of special training. His acting couldn't easily be compared to the skills of an ordinary newbie. Wu Zhengfei intentionally chose this sequel for Su Ming as his transformation piece as he works towards becoming a capable artist. Faced with Su Ming's taunting, Luo Chen was silent for a long time before he said, what if I get the role? Su Ming acted like this possibility never crossed his mind, and he replied mockingly, if you win, you can do anything you like. This time, Luo Chen didn't look like he was going to cower in fear. He gestured to Su Ming's manager and said, mouthing each word clearly, if I win, please get your manager, Mr. Wu, to apologize to my manager for everything he said just now. Yi Wanwan purposely remained silent, wanting to see how Luo Chen would handle this situation, but she didn't expect that he would come up with a request like this. Wu Zhengfei's face turned stormy when he heard what Luo Chen said. I've been in the industry for 7 to 8 years now, but he actually wants me to apologize to a newbie? Su Ming shrugged and said, sure. At this moment, Song Jinlin was already deep in conversation with the producer and assistant director. As far as the crew was concerned, having a public casting would hype the series up, so naturally they weren't against it. If they could push Su Ming's popularity higher and gain support from fans through the public casting, that would be ideal. Thus, the crew didn't even ask for Luo Chen's opinion and immediately agreed to Su Ming's request. Shortly after, the crew posted on Weibo informing everyone that in half an hour, there would be a live telecast for the casting of the role of Lin Luo Chen. Although it was a last-minute decision, this Weibo post still attracted the attention of many fans and netizens. The live telecast started and a large audience came flooding in. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Yi Wanwan watched coldly by the side as the crew got everything they wished for and prepared for the live broadcast with high efficiency. They already concluded that Luo Chen's skills weren't as good as other actors, and they were eagerly waiting to see Lin Luo Chen used as a stepping stone to advance Su Ming's career, thus maximizing the benefits. Meanwhile, Yi Wanwan was taking advantage of this exact mentality of the crew in addition to Su Ming's ego to smoothly execute this live broadcast. Luo Chen turned to Yi Wanwan, feeling a little guilty for deciding to agree to Su Ming's bet. Yi Ji. Was I too impulsive just now? Yi Wanwan laughed. Impulsive? I thought we were on the same page. The live public broadcast was initiated by her first after all. By obtaining affirmation from Yi Wanwan, it was like Luo Chen's teetering little boat gained a sail. There was now a determination in his eyes. At this point in time, the selection of roles for Terrifying Dragon 2 was a hot topic and the casting drew even more attention. Once news of the crew changing the casting to a live public broadcast went out, almost every netizen was filled with excitement. Ever since live broadcasts were popularized, this was the first time a production actually had a live broadcast of a casting, so this broadcast attracted many viewers due to its novelty. Shortly after, the live broadcast began. All the candidates drew lots for their casting sequence, then each individual auditioned in sequence. To facilitate the live broadcast, the casting venue was changed to a big hall that could accommodate up to 100 people. While the artists auditioned, other artists waiting for their turn could also watch from the side so that there would be total transparency. The crew arranged for the stage manager to be the host for this live broadcast, and he explained the reason for having a live broadcast this time, embellishing the story. The main idea was that Luo Chen's staff started the provocation and Su Ming took up the challenge to prove his abilities, so they opted for a live public broadcast. In order to build up the hype, the stage manager even mentioned the wager between Su Ming and Luo Chen. The bullet screen started to flood with comments and was very quickly taken over by Su Ming's fans. Damn! What the hell? Aside from Su Ming, is no one else allowed to play the role of Lin Luo Chen? However perfect things may seem, better actors can always show up. Isn't this a little too arrogant, huh? I admit that the original Lin Luo Chen was indeed a classic, but Luo Chen hasn't acted for 3 years. Who knows whether he can perform as well as before? In contrast, everyone can see our Su Ming's acting and how diligent he's been ever since his debut. He even cleared his schedule to go abroad for a few months to improve himself. This is the attitude needed for the role. Someone who idles his time away, not producing any work for so many years and only dishes up the same old stuff to gain popularity won't cut it. Exactly. Our Su Ming has, 1987, 3 People's Travel, and Everything is Wonderful, over 10 classic works, while Luo Chen only has 1, Terrifying Dragon. Is he only going to count on Terrifying Dragon his whole life? He even wants to freeload on the popularity of the casting. Ming, all the best. Make him lose till his own mother doesn't recognize him. Aside from Su Ming's fans, the original fans and some onlookers expressed their concerns. Actually, compared to other candidates, I'm most scared that the role of Lin Luo Chen would be ruined in the hands of the original actor. The memory of my favorite classic film would be ruined. That's right, if Luo Chen can't handle this role, why not let our memories stop at the beautiful moments? In order to increase the level of excitement and hype, the production team positioned Su Ming and Luo Chen's castings at the end on purpose. The harsh fans of the original work criticized almost every candidate like they were worthless. Song Jin Lin was also unsatisfied with the performances of many candidates and his brows were furrowed from beginning till end. Bullet Screen is a feature on online video sites which allows real-time comments from viewers to fly across the screen like bullets. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Right now, there were only 2 candidates who had yet to audition. One of them was a popular newbie, Su Ming, the hottest choice for the supporting role who possessed both skill and good looks, while the other was Luo Chen, very popular among the fans of the original work who originally played Lin Luo Chen. Wu Zhengfei thought back to his sources once again and was sure that aside from his routine training, Luo Chen hadn't taken up any special training and hadn't hired any famous instructors to guide him. When Luo Chen first acted as Lin Luo Chen, he was very fresh, young and natural. Now, Luo Chen's acting skills were still quite green, and even if he was able to meet a certain standard, he couldn't compare with the Su Ming today. After all, the role of Lin Luo Chen in the second season was much more challenging than in the first season. What kind of artist could this impulsive and brainless manager produce? He only knows how to use low methods like abusing others' fame to gain popularity. TSK, he wants to abuse Su Ming's fame. Then we'll let him abuse it all he wants. After all, in the entertainment industry, getting flamed is also a way of gaining fame, right? We just hope that they can handle it. The producer glanced at Su Ming and Luo Chen and his eyes lit up. Now, we're left with Su Ming and Luo Chen. These 2 people are also the candidates everyone is most interested in for the role of Lin Luo Chen. In order to clearly distinguish between the strengths of these 2 candidates, why don't we do this? The producer thought about it and suggested, Su Ming and Luo Chen can have their auditions at the same time. The 2 directors and I will pick a topic. After that, it's up to the 2 of them to decide how they would like to act it out. What do you all think? The producer spoke so naturally that the assistant director was tempted to go along with it. This idea's not bad. But, who's going first and who will go second? The one who goes first seems to be at a disadvantage, right? I'll go first then. Senior Luo-chan hasn't acted in so many years that I don't want to have an unfair advantage. Su Ming glanced at Luo-chan at the side and volunteered himself. The producer nodded, satisfied with Su Ming's offer. Since this is the case, Su Ming, you'll start. The assistant director already agreed to it, so while Song Jin-lin furrowed his brows slightly, he didn't object to it either. Yi Wanwan crossed her arms and the corners of her lips lifted into a sneer. As they would be throwing out the topics on the spot, there would definitely be less time for the one who went first to think of a strategy, and on the surface, it looked like Su Ming would be at a disadvantage. However, the fact was that the first person could do whatever he liked, but for the second person, if Luo-chan coincidentally did the same act as Su Ming, he would definitely be criticized for copying Su Ming even if his idea was original. Also, first impressions were the strongest. Luo-chan, going second, would be in a passive position. The first scene Song Jin-lin drew from the lot was the one when Lin Luo-chan met the male lead many years after he fell for the devil's teachings. Lin Luo-chan had to reply to interrogations from the male lead. Su Ming stood in the middle of the big hall and shut his eyes. In just 5 short seconds, he got into character. He placed one hand behind himself and stood upright like he was inviting strong winds. TSK, the right path. Evil path. What's right and what's evil? Yun Hai, you're still so naive. Su Ming looked at the empty space as if the male lead, Yun Hai, was standing there. He revealed a mocking gaze of contempt towards the invisible lead. Following that, Su Ming's acting immediately became 30% crazy and 70% violent. Let me tell you, history has always been written by the victors. From this day forward, this place is good if I say it's good and evil if I say it's evil. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Every movement and expression was executed well, even his rate of speech and pauses were in line with character. He was on a totally different level compared to the newbies' exaggerated performances. Wow! Our Su Ming's amazing. Aggressive, domineering, cool and awesome. He's totally my ideal Lin Luo-chan. Who said nobody could surpass Luo-chan as Lin Luo-chan? As a fan of the original work, Su Ming wasn't bad indeed, much better than all the others who auditioned just now. He really executed the tyrannical Lin Luo-chan well. He gave a feeling of breaking free from his bondage and becoming unworldly. I find that Luo-chan has a greater advantage. Not only does he have more time to prepare, but he can also copy our precious Ming's acting and bluff his way out. Isn't this a little unfair? I'd like to see how he'll act later. If he dares to copy our precious Ming, we'll flame him to death. As for Su Ming's acting, the assistant director and producer nodded with satisfaction repeatedly. Even Song Jin-lin, who hadn't looked too happy the entire evening, started to ease up as well. When the assistant director turned to Luo-chan, he looked quite insincere and gave a perfunctory reminder, Luo-chan, you may start. Compared to Su Ming, who got into character in 5 seconds, Luo-chan continued sitting in his seat after the assistant director told him to start. Very soon, people started throwing insults. What's going on? He's taking so long to get into character. Su Ming only took 5 seconds. As a professional actor, getting into character quickly is the most basic skill. He can't even do this, and this is when he has the advantage of going after Su Ming. The gap between these two people is too wide. Su Ming has the bystanders' vote. We can't wait for Su Ming to bring us a whole new Lin Luo-chan. As one of the original fans, after watching Su Ming's performance, it makes me look forward to it too. Luo-chan's circumstances were in fact quite unfavorable. It was exactly because he was the original actor and had a high benchmark that fans' expectations of him were naturally more demanding. Not only did he have to perform better than all the candidates, but he also had to surpass himself. After about 15 seconds, Luo-chan finally made some movements. He lifted his head up slowly and looked in the direction of Su Ming. There was no evil in his eyes, nor was there indifference. Instead, there was a tinge of intimacy and wistfulness. Yunhai was once his closest brother studying under the same master, but today, the contrast between these two people was like heaven and earth. Yunhai was the most outstanding man in the young generation who was on a righteous path, while he was a devil people scorned. However, even though they had changed and everything else stayed the same, even though Lin Luochen had already given up on everything, when he saw Yunhai, this brother whom he had once gone through life and death with, he still treated him as an old friend. Su Ming wasn't doing anything when Luochen turned to look at him, but now, Su Ming suddenly morphed into the male lead, Yunhai, in Luochen's mind. This was a solo audition, the director hadn't arranged for anyone to act with them as the male lead. While Su Ming simply imagined the male lead to be standing there during his audition, Luochen actually spoke directly to Su Ming, treating him as Yunhai. After Luochen glanced at Su Ming, he lowered his eyes and let out a low chuckle, ha. Luochen's young and handsome face looked as if he'd lived a lifetime. The right path. Evil path. What's right and what's evil? Luochen sighed lightly and looked at Su Ming. His clear eyes seemed to show the youth who used to ride on horses and talk about anything under the sun with him. Yunhai, you're still so naive. When Luochen reached this segment, he merely said two short lines that were the same two lines Su Ming said. Everyone knew what was going to happen next and what the lines were, but everyone there, including the audience who had been throwing insults, held their breaths with their eyes fixed on the screen, waiting for Luochen's next performance. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. After Luochen said that line, he finally stood up slowly. Step by step, he walked over to Su Ming. He stood next to his old pal, shoulder to shoulder with him, and when he lifted his gaze, it was like he was looking at a faraway galaxy. Let me tell you, history has always been written by the victors. From this day forward, this place is good if I say it's good and evil if I say it's evil. When Luochen said that line, it was unlike Su Ming's crazy and violent interpretation. Instead, his tone was as wispy as the clouds. It was like he was saying something very ordinary. His tone was like a clear lake that was deathly still. After he finished that line, he walked away slowly, brushing past Su Ming. This signified that a pair of brothers, who once shared the same principles and wielded swords together, had now parted ways and were taking different paths in life. After a long time, there was still silence at the scene. Even the comments on the bullet screen on the live broadcast stopped. That concludes my audition. When Luochen turned around, faced the production crew and took a bow, everyone came back to their senses. Song Jin Lin, who had been blank-faced throughout the evening, looked excited. He stared at Luochen in disbelief. Even Su Ming himself was shocked. His face looked pale. He was involved with Luochen's act the whole time, so he felt a more direct impact than anyone else. He was almost sucked into the act by Luochen and believed he really was Yunhai. The bullet screen which stopped just now was flooded once again. Damn. Awesome. He was totally possessed by Lin Luochen. What do you mean possessed by Lin Luochen? This is Lin Luochen himself. I thought Su Ming's performance was perfect, but now, after watching Luochen's, this was truly a case of the master showing everybody how it's done. Su Ming's act was almost perfect and I know he's very good at acting, but Luochen, whether or not he's good at acting, probably didn't use his skills. He was completely immersed in the storyline because he was that person in the story. He's Lin Luochen. This is the difference between the master himself and the other actors. Su Ming was Lin Luochen before, but in just a second, he was brought into the act by Luochen and became Yunhai. Actually, while all of you were paying attention to Su Ming, I was watching Luochen and realized that he's not slow at getting into character because he was already in character all along. He didn't need to get into character at all. This is too exciting. The original is truly the original. This role isn't something that can easily be played by just anyone else. Song Jin Lin was deep in thought. The scene he chose today wasn't a random choice, but it had a deeper meaning to it. This scene looked easy, but it was actually the most important emotional plot shift in the sequel. It depicted an important break between Lin Luo Chen and the male lead. One must know that in the second series, the relationship between the supporting actor and male lead was very crucial. They were friends yet enemies, they had differing principles yet were so alike. These contradicting states were very difficult to act out. For instance, although Su Ming's performance just now wasn't bad, it was too flimsy. He simply acted out the storyline and ignored the relationship with the male lead and the link to the entire plot. In contrast, Luo Chen's acting was so intense. With just a few lines and a simple storyline, he was able to convey the entire story, and at the same time, he displayed the conflict and struggles within the character. He must have put in hard work to understand this character thoroughly. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to reach this level of skill. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. But he needed to be sure. Whether it was just sheer luck or whether Luo Chen really had this kind of skill. With this thought, Song Jin Lin said firmly, Act 13, Scene 7, act according to your own perceptions. After Song Jin Lin said that, the audience, which was initially excited, became silent once again as they looked at the two people nervously. On the bullet screen, Su Ming's fans were unhappy and started retorting. It's not over yet. Why are all of you so worried? It could have been sheer luck just now. Exactly. Luo Chen was obviously trying to play little tricks. Su Ming had to act by himself, so obviously, his results would be slightly worse, but Luo Chen used Su Ming to help him out. So scheming. Luo Chen didn't notice the reaction of the surrounding people. It was only when he heard Song Jin Lin say, Act 13, Scene 7, that he felt somewhat stunned. Yi Ji personally taught me this act and even emphasized it. I didn't expect director Song would really pick this one. While Luo Chen was still stunned, Su Ming had already gotten into character and begun acting. Su Ming showed he had really undergone professional training. He was able to get into character very quickly once again, and he entered the next portion of the storyline. Swish. Su Ming performed the motion of drawing out his sword, then he instantly attacked the space opposite. The vicious and murderous intention in his eyes seemed tangible, like it could be transmitted through the screen to the audience. So amazing. Now, this is more like Su Ming's true skill. Just his gaze alone was enough to send shivers down my spine. He acted out the bloodthirsty great devil so brilliantly. As everyone was exclaiming and praising Su Ming for his fascinating performance that was even better than his previous act, Luo Chen was making mental comparisons in his head. Su Ming's acting the scene exactly the same as I did before I was corrected by Yi Ji. If Yi Ji didn't go through this scene with me, my performance would definitely be similar to Su Ming's. Right now. Su Ming's audition won much applause, and his manager, Wu Zhengfei, was relieved as well. The assistant director and producer were both nodding their heads. However, Song Jin Lin, sitting in the middle, didn't have a change in expression at all. Instead, he looked straight at Luo Chen. Luo Chen, you may begin. Su Ming naturally noticed the special attention Song Jin Lin was giving Luo Chen. He took a deep breath to suppress the dissatisfaction in his heart, and he glanced coldly at Luo Chen. His teacher had guided him through this scene before, and he was very certain that his interpretation of this scene was the best. If Luo Chen's act was similar to his, Luo Chen would definitely appear weaker. Luo Chen nodded and began. He strictly followed what Yuan Wan taught him and finished acting the scene. Luo Chen's interpretation of the role was far removed from Su Ming's aggressive and emotional act. When he pulled out his sword, his gaze was cold, detached, purposeless and empty. There was no expression on his face, yet everyone felt a chill in their hearts. After watching Luo Chen's performance, Song Jin Lin's face finally lost its calmness. He asked with slight excitement in his voice, "Why did you use this method to act out this scene? Walk me through your reasoning." Luo Chen glanced in the direction of Yi Wanwan, then considered his words carefully before responding with certainty. I think Lin Luo Chen had gone through so much injustice and torture at that point, and while his temperament did change drastically, the biggest difference between him and the old Lin Luo Chen wasn't the change in temperament but the veneration he had for life. If he revered life and considered people as humans, he would have a murderous intent, but if he viewed life like grass and dirt, then when he kills, there would only be indifference. The moment Luo Chen said his piece, Song Jin Lin immediately slammed the table. Well said. Song Jin Lin's eyes reddened slightly. Before teacher Lin Zong passed away, he once pulled me in to talk about this scene. At that time, he said the greatest change in Lin Luo Chen was exactly as you said just now. Luo Chen, you're pretty good. I can tell you studied this character diligently. When Song Jin Lin said that, Yi Wanwan heaved a sigh of relief. She knew Luo Chen had successfully secured this role. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. For the fans of the original work, in addition to neutral observers, the mention of Lin Zong's name signified power and prestige. When Song Jin Lin said that, everyone viewed Luo Chen in a different light. Amazing. He's truly the original. That's why he has a more thorough understanding of the character. He even managed to hit teacher Lin Zong's intention on the mark. Thanks to the production team for the live broadcast of the casting, allowing us to witness the return of the Lin Luo Chen in our hearts. Lin Luo Chen must be none other than Luo Chen. Seeing the crazy number of comments on the bullet screen, Wu Zhengfei's face turned green. Initially, he wanted to boost Su Ming's reputation and had even gotten someone to draft all kinds of news releases already. Who'd have known that Su Ming would actually be used as a cat's paw instead, allowing that guy to walk all over him? They even chose to broadcast the entire casting live. Now it was impossible for him to change the public's opinion or secretly bribe director Wang to change the outcome. He totally underestimated his opponent this time. After Song Jin Lin said that, he instantly stood up and personally walked over to Luo Chen. Welcome on board, Terrifying Dragon 2, I'm very glad to be able to work with you once again. Hearing Song Jin Lin's words, Luo Chen's heart trembled slightly. He slowly extended his arm and said, "Thank you Director Song for giving me this opportunity." Witnessing this historical moment when the original cast members were successfully chosen for both the male lead and supporting actor, everyone cheered excitedly on the bullet screen. Su Ming had always thought highly of himself, he hadn't expected he would lose to a has-been before everyone's eyes. He immediately turned around and left. There was no point in staying. Wu Zhengfei's face darkened and he quickly followed after him. However, when he brushed past Luo Chen suddenly said icily, "Mr. Wu, did you forget something?" Yi Wanwan raised her brows slightly, she didn't think the little sheep would attack. Wu Zhengfei gritted his teeth and apologized, smiling hypocritically, "I'm really sorry, Manager Ye's tricks were indeed amazing. I was wrong about Luo Chen. But, one's reputation lasts forever and there's still a long way to go. You can't just rely on your little tricks to get by in the entertainment industry." Once he was done, he harumphed and walked away. After Yi Wanwan and the director discussed some details of the collaboration, she left the building with Luo Chen. The casting they had prepared so long for had finally come to an end and Yi Wanwan could finally loosen up a little. Dazzling media. After they returned to the office, Yi Wanwan quickly prepared the arrangements required for Luo Chen's signing of the contract. Luo Chen's team started preparing as well. When Yi Wanwan put up a recruitment notice, she left to go to Country B at the last minute, so she only managed to recruit a single assistant. Terrifying Dragon 2 is your first show since your comeback. I think I don't have to stress the importance of this show to you. Now, I need you to do just one thing, focus on going over the script. As for the other matters, I will. Yi Wanwan was sitting in front of her desk and was speaking to Luo Chen when urgent knocks rang on the door. "Please come in." Assistant Xiao Qing looked frantic as she pushed the door open and entered. She looked at Luo Chen and Yi Wanwan anxiously and said, "Yi Ji, we're in trouble." The production crew just called us to tell us that. What is it? Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. They said they replaced the supporting actor with someone else and they won't need Luo Chen anymore. What? When Yi Wanwan heard that, she was stunned. Luo Chen's face gradually turned pale. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Since it was a public casting this time, it would be no use even if Wu Zhengfei found a sponsor. The production crew wouldn't take such a big risk of offending the public by replacing the supporting actor after he was already chosen. You mentioned they found someone else. Who was it? Yi Wanwan suppressed the suspicion in her heart and spoke calmly. The little assistant was hesitant and didn't dare to speak. Instead, she passed a piece of paper over weakly. This is the facts the production crew sent over. Yi Ji, please take a look at this. They'll be making the list of main actors public this afternoon. Yi Wanwan took the facts and scanned through it. In the next second, she noticed the two shocking words after the position of the supporting actor Gong Su. Gong Su. After seeing that name, Yi Wanwan knitted her brows. That's why Yi Wanwan said, who had the ability to make the production crew swap the actors even after the casting was broadcasted live. Although Gong Su, a rich second-generation kid, had a terrible reputation in the industry, he came from an extremely wealthy background and his paternal aunt was one of the founders of Country M's entertainment giants, SA Entertainment. So he wasn't just a regular rich second-generation kid, otherwise, he wouldn't still be so popular considering his level of ability. I took so long to plan and spent so much energy on this, but in the end, we've encountered such a drastic change. Yi Wanwan closed her eyes and something seemed to flash in her eyes as she pinched her brows. She was about to speak when footsteps came up to the door. Zhou Wenbin was dressed in a luxurious gray custom suit and was standing at the door casually. He shook his head and said regretfully, young man, you're still too inexperienced. As someone who's been around for a while and since we're colleagues, I really had to give Manager Yi a reminder. For such a big production like Terrifying Dragon, you can't get the role simply by having some acting skills. Yi Wanwan looked coldly at Zhou Wenbin as he flaunted his power, not saying a word. Zhou Wenbin relished Yi Wanwan's look of failure for a while, then he turned to Luo Chen and said, Little Chen, Bin Ji taught you before that as an actor in the entertainment industry, only having skills is useless. Zhou Wenbin spoke while slowly strolling towards Luo Chen. He reached out to grasp his shoulder. Little Chen, if you regret this now. Before Zhou Wenbin's fingers touched Luo Chen, a fair wrist firmly intercepted him. Zhou Wenbin chuckled as if he didn't mind it at all. He retracted his arm as his perverted eyes scanned the youth's body and he said faintly, if you regret this now, there's still time. It's just that, I, Zhou Wenbin, have never wanted second-hand goods, someone who's followed others, before, so if you want to come back, you better show me your sincerity, ha ha ha. He sneered as he strolled away leisurely. After Zhou Wenbin left, there was an overwhelming dead silence. After a long time, Luo Chen tried his best to force a smile and said, Yi Ji. I'm fine, you've already helped me a lot, it's me. I'm useless. If Yi Ji chose someone else before, he wouldn't have to put in so much effort and he wouldn't be picked on by Zhou Wenbin. Yi Ji, why don't you choose someone else instead? Luo Chen was about to open his mouth but the corners of Yi Wanwan's lips suddenly curved into a wide smile. She pressed his shoulder, forcing him to take a seat on the sofa. She then said carefully, sit still. Yi Ji. Luo Chen looked at Yi Wanwan blankly. Yi Wanwan stood upright and smiled, Tisk, since they're not playing by the rules, don't blame me for taking extreme measures. Zhou Wenbin. Whatever methods he used to snatch that role, I'll make him spit it back out the same way. Yi Wanwan looked at the little assistant and asked, where's Gong Su right now? The little assistant replied honestly, he's in the office. I saw him in the makeup room upstairs. Yi Wanwan straightened her lapels and strode out of the office. Yi Ji. Luo Chen muttered as he watched Yi Wanwan's retreating figure. His eyes were filled with concern, unsure what Yi Wanwan was planning to do. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. Upstairs, in the makeup room, Gong-soo leaned against a big, comfortable chair with his legs crossed and a phone in his hand. He was currently engrossed in his game while the hairstylist, makeup artist, and stylist frantically worked around him. There were two little assistants by the side. One of them held a massive coconut, standing beside him attentively. Once Gong-soo moved his gear to neutral, she would have to bring the coconut over carefully and let him have a sip. The other person was standing a few steps away, busy snapping photos of him. Soo-ji, it's done. Please take a look to see if these are all right. The assistant brought the camera over nervously for approval. Gong-soo took a quick glance and the disapproval was evident on his face. TSK, you didn't even get a good shot of young master's stunning looks. The little assistant quickly tried to suck up to him. How could that be, Soo-ji? You don't have a single bad angle, you look good no matter how you're photographed. Gong-soo did not care for such flattery anymore and simply picked a couple of photos impatiently. This, and this. Send them to my phone, I'm posting them on Weibo. Yes, right away. Don't forget to Photoshop all the pimples on my forehead. Yes. After the photos were done with, Gong-soo posted them on Weibo with a sorrowful expression. He attached a photo of himself first, then smacked his lips and typed out a sentence. It's been 3 days since I met you and I haven't received any news about you. Little Candied Plum, there's an endless sea of people. How can I find you? The little assistant beside him leaned over and read the post. Her face darkened instantly. Our dear artist is starting up his tricks again and asking for trouble. My heart is so tired. Fuck. Lighter. Do you know how precious a strand of young master's hair is? Sorry. The hairstylist apologized profusely. Lately, Gong-soo's mood had been exceptionally irritable and he was harder to work on. These people could only blame their bad luck. Everyone was fearfully trying to manage this little ancestor. Suddenly, there was a loud bang that came from the door. Someone had kicked it open from the outside. All they saw was a young man standing at the door casually. After he swept his gaze at everyone in the room slowly, his eyes landed upon Gong-soo. The man gave him a forced smile. Gong-soo stared at that insolent man who dared to kick open the door of his makeup room. Who are you? After the little assistant next to Gong-soo saw the man, she quickly whispered into Gong-soo's ear, Soo-ji, he's that Yi Bai I mentioned to you before. This guy probably knows that you snatched Luo Chen's role and is looking for trouble now. He's Yi Bai. Gong-soo raised his brows. After Yi Wanwan locked onto her target, she didn't say anything as she curled her lips and walked towards Gong-soo step by step. When she got to him, she placed one foot on Gong-soo's chair. A strong sense of oppression hit him in the face. Gong-soo subconsciously cowered and yelled, I, what do you want? Trying to rebel, huh? Yi Bai. What are you doing? The two assistants panicked as well. They berated her while shouting towards the door, security. Where's security? Yi Wanwan tapped a photo in her phone leisurely and placed it right in front of Gong-soo, letting him take a look. The moment Gong-soo, who was still yelling, saw that photo, he was completely stunned. Damn! Isn't this my little Candied Plum? Why would this chap have a photo of my little Candied Plum? Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon. When Gong-soo was tempted to continue looking at the photo, Yi Wanwan quickly retracted the phone and said, Look at me. Gong-soo looked at Yi Wanwan instinctively. This one glance made him continue to stare in a daze. You. Do I look like her? Yi Wanwan lowered her voice and asked by his ear. Gong-soo stared at the man's face and nodded repeatedly. At first sight, he didn't notice it because their temperaments were too different, but taking a closer look, why did he find that this man looked so similar to his little Candied Plum? The person in the photo is my little sister, Yu Wanwan said. The moment the man said that, Gong Su's eyes widened in complete disbelief. What? The little candied plum I've been looking for and went almost crazy for the past 2 days is actually this guy's younger sister? For a split second, Gong Su stared at Yu Wanwan as if he was looking at the god of sun, Apollo, glistening and shining, wishing he could worship her. Within the few seconds of conversation Yu Wanwan and Gong Su had, Gong Su was the only one who saw the photograph. Now came a herd of hurried footsteps. The staff rushed over with a couple security guards. The tall and bulky bodyguards asked aggressively, "Who's causing trouble here?" The little assistant by the side pointed at Yu Wanwan and said, "It's this guy here, he's causing trouble and tried to hurt someone. Chase him away right now." They couldn't take it if a single strand of hair was damaged on Gong Su's scalp. When those bodyguards heard that, they immediately charged towards Yu Wanwan. However, before anyone could get near her, Gong Su's expression turned icy instantly. He slammed the table and shouted, "Get lost. I'll deal with whoever dares to touch him." Seeing Gong Su's reaction, the two little assistants and staff were taken aback. The bodyguards looked at each other, confused and not daring to move. The little assistant quickly got closer to Gong Su and asked cautiously, Suji, what is it? This insolent guy here offended you just now, right?" Gong Su immediately roared at him, "Offended your grandfather? Who said you could shout at my Yi?" The little assistant's face was covered in his spit and she was completely stunned. "Huh?" Gong Su ignored his assistant. He stood up and pulled out the chair he was just sitting on. He looked at Yu Wanwan and lavished her with praise. Yi, take a seat." Seeing how Gong Su made a complete 180, everyone in the room looked at each other, confused and dumbstruck. They had no idea what was going on. The other little assistant said in a daze, "Suji, this is..." Gong Su turned his head and started scolding them, "Is your head? Hurry, go get tea for Yi. Can you be on your toes? And you? Go get a coconut for Yi right now." Both the assistants, "Huh? What on earth happened? Why did our great young master, second-generation ancestor, suddenly become so polite and respectful towards Yi Bai?" Although they didn't fully understand the situation, they didn't dare go against Gong Su's orders, so one of them quickly went to get tea while the other rushed to prepare a coconut. Gong Su personally took the big coconut, placed a straw in it and held it close to Yu Wanwan. "Yi, have a drink. Yu Wanwan forced a smile and looked suspiciously at the man with that beautiful, dazzling and handsome face, then she supported her forehead with one hand and said faintly, "I heard that, young Master Gong intends to act in Terrifying Dragon 2. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon." When Gong Su heard that, his face froze and he suddenly remembered he just snatched the role of Lin Luochen from Yi Bai. When he thought about how he already offended his future brother-in-law before he even found little candied plum, beads of cold sweat started trickling down Gong Su's forehead. After pondering it for a short while, Gong Su said without hesitation, "Terrifying Dragon 2. Who said that? I'm acting in Terrifying Dragon 2, how come I don't know anything about that? No. That's definitely not a thing." "Oh. Is that so?" Yu Wanwan laughed. She brought out the facts sheet the little assistant gave her. Gong Su glanced at the list of artists and immediately gnashed his teeth, wishing he could drag Zhou Wenbin out for a beating. If Zhou Wenbin hadn't kept nagging him, why would he court death by snatching the role of an artist under Yi Bai? He wouldn't have dared to offend little Candied Plum's older brother otherwise. Afraid that this incident would cause the distance between him and little Candied Plum to widen, Gong Su made up his mind and said, "Yi, this was a misunderstanding. This must have been a misunderstanding. Why would I possibly take on a role as a supporting actor when the original cast was fine?" After speaking, he turned his head immediately to look at his assistants. "Both of you, what's going on exactly? Who allowed you to get me this role without authorization?" The two assistants were completely lost. After they looked at each other, one of them replied, "Huh. Suji, wasn't this role the one you? Wasn't this the role he insisted on taking? He even said he would crush Yi-bai for coming over. Why is he acting like he has amnesia now?" The assistant didn't get a chance to finish speaking when Gong-su anxiously interrupted, "Shut up. How dare you deny it? You're so gutsy that you dared to make decisions behind my back without authorization, huh? Call Zhou Wenbin over right now." The assistant didn't have a choice. In a situation like this, he really couldn't handle it. So, he dashed out quickly to look for Zhou Wenbin. Everyone else in the makeup room couldn't follow these developments either, and they all stood there in a daze. After the little assistant left to find Zhou Wenbin, Gong-su kept blinking his peach blossom eyes which glistened like water. He looked at Yi Wanwan miserably. "Yi-ji, it was truly a misunderstanding. Why would I possibly steal the role of an artist under you?" Yi Wanwan took a sip of her tea. She smiled plainly and did not expose him. In the office on the second level, Zhou Wenbin was in a pleasant mood, wiping his precious antiques in the office while taking a call. "Huh, Yi-bai got the role of Lin Luochen. Who told you that? He's just a newbie, you think too highly of him. This role is in my hands now." "Why, you don't believe me? So what if the casting was broadcasted publicly? You think that having a public casting means the role belongs to him?" Zhou Wenbin was chatting on the phone with his friend when Gong-su's assistant suddenly pushed the door open and entered hastily. "Zhou, Director Zhou." Despite seeing how flustered the little assistant was, Zhou Wenbin was unconcerned since he was in a good mood. He glanced at the assistant and said, "Why are you so flustered?" The little assistant wasn't completely sure about the situation, so he didn't dare speak irresponsibly. He could only put on a bitter expression and say, "Suji wants you to go over for a while." "Why? The great young master is throwing his tantrums again." Zhou Wenbin was already used to this and didn't pay much attention to it. He stood up and said, "Let's go, I'll take a look." Shortly after, Zhou Wenbin followed the assistant and reached Gong-su's makeup room. "Gong-su, what's the matter? Who made you angry this time?" Zhou Wenbin spoke kindly while walking in, but the moment he lifted his gaze, he actually noticed that aside from Gong-su, Yi-bai was in the room as well. He was shocked for a moment, then revealed a mocking expression. "Ha, this Yi-bai guy really knows how to create his own path to destruction. He actually dared to run here to directly interrogate Gong-su. Liked it? Take a second to support novels on Patreon." Chapter 471, Get Someone Else to Do It. Gong-su's expression implied that he would bite whoever dared to ruin his reputation in front of his future brother-in-law. Seeing as Gong-su was telling a barefaced lie, Zhou Wenbin's face was as black as the underside of a pot, but he could only force himself to say, How could that be? Of course not." Only then was Gong-su satisfied as he sneered, "So, on the surface you obeyed orders but you secretly took matters into your own hands behind my back. You made this mess, so you have to fix this yourself. You, call the production team right now to clear things up. I will never take this role." How could he refuse the role that's already in his hands and present it to Luochen personally? When Zhou Wenbin heard that, his face turned ugly. He suppressed the darkness in his eyes, walked over to Gong-su's side and coaxed him nicely, "Gong-su, the production team has already selected you for this role and will be making it public soon. Suddenly saying that you don't want to act anymore, it's really hard for my side to explain this to the production team. We definitely can't back out now." Zhou Wenbin obviously wouldn't give up on the role so easily. How could Yi Wanwan not know what Zhou Wenbin was thinking about? She smiled and said, "Director Zhou's really humble. I just discussed the collaboration with the production team and when I returned to the office, I was informed about the change of actor for the supporting role. I'm sure everyone knows how efficient you are, Director Zhou." Zhou Wenbin was frustrated and immediately lashed out at Yi-bai. "I was speaking to Gong-su. Who are you to interrupt? Who do you think you are?" The moment Zhou Wenbin spoke, Gong-su slammed the table and roared, "Zhou Wenbin! Is this how you speak to Yi Ji? Yi Ji. When Zhou Wenbin heard how Gong Su addressed Yi Bai, his eyes opened wide in utter disbelief. Gong Su actually called Yi Bai Yi Ji. What exactly is going on here? Gong Su stroked his fringe as the noble and haughty aura around him suddenly dissipated. TSK, you can't change it. Sure. If you can't do it, why don't I get someone else to do it? When Zhou Wenbin heard him, it was as if his pressure points were struck and his face turned completely white. This brainless great young master, Gong Su, is easy to talk to when he's in a good mood, but when his temper rises, there's nothing he won't do. If he gets so mad that he wants a change in manager, it's all over. Zhou Wenbin couldn't afford to worry about Yi Bai anymore. He made a prompt decision and said, Gong Su, this incident was truly my fault for not thinking things through carefully. I should have discussed with you before making any decisions. I'll clear things up with the production crew immediately and will definitely clear up this mess. Zhou Wenbin walked to a corner after speaking and called the production crew to try to clear up the mess. He was completely distraught. The production team was already prepared to go public with the list of cast members when Zhou Wenbin called them all of a sudden to tell them that Gong Su didn't want to be part of the production anymore. Obviously, their attitudes were sour and Zhou Wenbin could only hold in his temper and explain, stubbornly declining the role that was already in their possession. It was chaotic in the makeup room as there was quite a number of artists and staff crowded outside. Seeing that Zhou Wenbin had been scolded so badly by Gong Su, everyone started whispering and gossiping. After Zhou Wenbin made the call, he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and walked towards Gong Su with residual fear. Gong Su, I already made things clear with the production team according to your instructions. Chapter 472, Just Take Me In. Yi Wanwan forced a smile and looked into the man's eyes that were as sparkly as the stars. Young Master Gong is too polite, there's no need for the treat. When Gong Su heard that, he instantly panicked and felt he had definitely left a bad impression on Yi Bai due to his snatching of the role. He was afraid Yi Bai would never let him near his sister. How can I simply let this go? I put in so much effort just to find my little candied Plum. I have to quickly get into Yi Bai's good books. But, how do I do that? Gong Su felt like he was on the hot seat, but his eyes suddenly lit up and he seemed to have thought of something. Gong Su put on an experienced and jaded expression. Acting helpless, he sighed and said, Yi Ji, my reputation in the industry has been bad all these years, all because I was matched to irresponsible managers. I've suffered so badly under them. That's why I really admire Luo Chen. He has a manager like Yi Ji who's so responsible and has good foresight, not to mention being very good-looking. Yi Ji, I won't hide it from you, from the very first day you stepped into the company, I knew you were no ordinary person. With so many artists in the company, why else would you pick Luo Chen, someone with so much potential? Before, you mentioned that unless Zhou Wenbin exchanged me for Luo Chen, you wouldn't consider giving Luo Chen up. This really made me feel extremely honored. Yi Wanwan, watching Gong Su, this great young master with an ego higher than the sky, trying to win over Yi Bai so eloquently with a deluge of heavenly flowers, Zhou Wenbin's expression looked as if he had just seen a ghost. Darn it! What's with Gong Su today? Is he possessed? When Gong Su was done currying favor, he asked, Yi Ji, I know my skills are weak, but I have a heart that's willing to work diligently to improve. I'm just lacking a talent scout like Yi Ji who's so good at teaching. So, Yi Ji, could you please take me in? When Zhou Wenbin saw Gong Su currying favor with Yi Wanwan, his face was just gloomy, but the moment he heard this, his pupils constricted. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. Take you in. Gong Su nodded like a chicken pecking at grains. Yi Ji, I really want to work with you. Yi Ji, please be my manager, alright? Yi Wanwan, to any other artist, having a change in manager was an extremely important matter, but coming from Gong Su's mouth, it sounded like he was just changing his watch or phone. The second Gong Su said he wanted a change in manager, all the assistants and staff in the makeup room, including all the onlookers at the door, were so shocked that their chins dropped to the floor. Damn, what did we just hear? Gong-soo actually wants a new manager and even took the initiative to ask to work under Yi Bai. Zhou Wenbin's face was terribly pale. His face suddenly changed as he turned to Gong-soo. Gong-soo, you want a change of manager? How could you do this? Gong-soo raised his brows. His eyes were suddenly filled with arrogance and defiance as he said, "What? Must I go through your approval just for a change of manager? Who do you think you are?" Every one of his previous managers was changed just by a single word from him. Even if Chu Hongguang was here, he couldn't control which manager Gong-soo worked with. Gong-soo didn't bother with Zhou Wenbin. Instead, he moved closer to Yi Wanwan in an obedient and adorable manner. "Yi Ji, is that alright, is that alright? Please take me in. I promise I'll listen to you obediently. I'll listen to everything you say." Chapter 473, A Double-Edged Sword. This guy had an outrageously good-looking face, and when he acted pitifully, he was simply too attractive, causing people to forgive him for everything and giving in to any requests he had. If his fans saw him like this, their screams would probably break through the clouds. However, Yi Wanwan didn't believe a single word of Gong-soo's promises. With regards to the glorious deeds of Gong-soo, she knew them very well. Gong-soo will listen obediently to his manager. This could potentially be the greatest lie of the year in the entertainment industry. The moment Gong-soo said that, everyone's gazes landed on Yi Wanwan, awaiting her response. Zhou Wenbin stared at Yi Wanwan with a gaze that looked as if he wanted to burn her alive. "Gong-soo, did this guy say something to you? This guy's very treacherous and cunning, don't be fooled by him." Gong-soo was afraid Mr. Yi would be angered, so to de-escalate the situation, he quickly yelled, "Zhou Wenbin. Why are you?" At this moment, a man's clear voice resounded, "All right." Following Yi Wanwan's, "All right," there was a pin-drop silence in the makeup room. Gong-soo was speechless. He was stunned at first, like he was in disbelief, then both his eyes suddenly sparkled. He turned to Yi Wanwan excitedly. "Yi Ji. You agreed? You're willing to take me in? Why not? My goal is to protect the Yi family and Emperor Sky Entertainment. With my current progress, I'm still too far from my goal. Even if Luo Chen becomes famous from this show, I'll still be trampled by Zhou Wenbin, and if I want to solidify my power, I still have a long way to go. If I take in Gong-soo, that would be a great help to me. I know Gong-soo's a double-edged sword, extremely hard to control. But, so what? In the entertainment industry, there are all kinds of risks and gambles. There's no reason why I should decline such a great opportunity." Yi Wanwan said leisurely, "I only have Luo Chen under me right now, and today, he's on the right track, so there's no harm in taking on another artist. It's just that," as Yi Wanwan spoke, she looked over at Zhou Wenbin with a meaningful glance. Seeing that, Gong-soo said, "Yi Ji, as long as you agree, there won't be any problems. Don't worry about any other issues, I'll settle them." Gong-soo turned towards Zhou Wenbin the moment he finished his sentence and said eagerly, "Why are you still standing there? Didn't you see that Yi Ji has agreed? Go bring my contract over right now." Zhou Wenbin didn't expect this at all. Yi Bai was beaten down by him to the point where he couldn't even fight back just a moment ago, but now there was a complete turn of events, and not only was he forced to return the role to Yi Bai, but even Gong-soo was leaving with him. The craziest thing was that until now, he still didn't understand what exactly happened and why there was such a sudden change in Gong-soo's attitude. No way. There's no way. It was so hard for me to grab onto this money tree. Gong-soo, how can I just simply let him go? Zhou Wenbin wept and wailed on the spot. Gong-soo. I've been with you for 3 entire years and was totally devoted to you. Even if I haven't done any good deeds, I've put in a lot of hard work. You actually tossed me away all for this scheming young guy. At this moment, there were more and more onlookers. Everyone watching was part of the internal staff and they all knew Zhou Wenbin's character. Watching Zhou Wenbin's act, everybody felt sick to their stomachs. 1. A source of easy money. Chapter 474, I belong to you now today. After witnessing Zhou Wenbin being discarded by Gong Su, everyone felt he deserved it, and watching his hypocritical act, all of them looked down on him as they whispered to each other. Although I really don't know what's going on with Gong Su, Zhou Wenbin's just disgusting. Good deeds and hard work. Put in a lot of hard work. How did he manage to get all that out of his mouth? Exactly. Ever since he got Gong Su, he depends entirely on this golden thigh and tyrannizes the company, bullies the staff and collects a high commission by force. He's motivated by personal gain. Just how many artists were exploited by him? This is his retribution. He had this day coming when he gets tossed aside by Gong Su. A tiger with no teeth, let's see how he can continue to be arrogant like that. Gong Su looked suspiciously at Zhou Wenbin's so-called hard-working and loyal face, and a hint of iciness appeared in his dazzling eyes as he sneered, Zhou Wenbin, stop acting all nice and pitiful here. Don't you have any idea how much you've profited from me? Or, do you really think I'm a rich fool with more money than sense? Hearing that, the cold sweat on Zhou Wenbin's forehead came trickling down immediately. This was the first time he realized that although this prince was arrogant and despotic, ignorant and incompetent, he wasn't an idiot who could be deceived so easily. At this moment, Zhou Wenbin finally started to panic. Gong Su. Gong Su, you can't do this to me, you can't. As the last few years had been going so smoothly, he had increasingly shown no restraint and offended many people. Chu Hongguang had also been monitoring him closely, tempted to chase him out of the company. Once he lost an artist like Gong Su, he couldn't imagine what would happen to him. Gong Su wasn't someone with patience, he had already reached his limit after wasting so much time. Thus, he made a call to the Human Resources Department. This incident had been blown out of proportion, so the Human Resources Department had already heard about the incident and the news about Zhou Wenbin losing favor. They already asked for instructions from Chu Hongguang the first chance they got. Chu Hongguang's response was as expected. Thus, right after Gong Su made the call, the Human Resources Department had already prepared the entire process and procedures required for a manager replacement with the highest efficiency. The director of the Human Resources Department personally rushed over with the contract for the new manager. Seeing how efficient the Human Resources Department was, great young Master Gong's face turned gentler. He took the contract from the director, flipped to the last page without reading it and signed his name. Then he walked to Yi Wanwan cheerfully. Yi Ji, please take a look. If you have no problems with it, you may sign it. Gong Su's peach blossom eyes flickered, urging Yi Wanwan. His head was filled with beautiful pink fantasies. Ah! My little candied plum. I'll be able to take advantage of my job and use my tricks to find out about little Candied Plum or ask for her phone number or something. Yi Wanwan was a little speechless by that scorching stare, but she still took the contract and signed her name. When Zhou Wenbin witnessed Yi Wanwan signing her name, it was as if he lost his soul. His face turned ashen and he looked lifeless. Gong Su held up the new contract with both hands like it was his baby, and he looked as if he wanted to turn into a butterfly and fly around the room. Yi Ji, from today onwards, I belong to you. Chapter 475, There's a chance. Gong Su asked Yi Wanwan in private, Yi Ji, you see, now that we've established such a close relationship, can we? Yi Wanwan gave Gong Su a sidelong glance and stood up slowly from the chair. Depends on your performance. Even though Gong Su was somewhat disappointed, his spirits rose very quickly. Brother-in-law wants to observe me, this means there's a chance. With that thought, Gong Su felt suddenly invigorated. Yi Ji, don't worry. I'll definitely perform well. Seeing this vain, great young master acting like an ambitious youth, Yi Wanwan couldn't help but burst out in laughter. I really look forward to your performance. The upward curvature of his lips spread like a ripple towards Gong Su's heart. In Gong Su's eyes, this smile was an exact replica of that girl who gave him those candied plums. Gong Su stood rooted to the ground in a daze. He was dazzled and the tips of his ears started burning. Is it because they're siblings? In that split second just now, the two of them looked so alike. Zhou Wenbin wasn't sure how he returned to his own office. It hadn't been long since he returned to his luxurious office. Before he could come to his senses, his phone started ringing. Seeing that it was Chu Hongguang, an ominous premonition instantly arose in his heart. Hello, Chairman Chu. On the other end of the call, Chu Hongguang sighed. Wenbin, you've been with the company for such a long time. Why can't you hold a single person back? Zhou Wenbin replied anxiously, Chairman Chu, I have no animosity towards Gong Su at all. That young guy, Yi Bai, must have played some dirty tricks under the table. All right. Gong Su's gone over to Yi Bai's side already, so this is the end of it. I have another issue I want to discuss right now. Chu Hongguang's tone became stern and cold. Another issue? Zhou Wenbin asked hesitantly. Chu Hongguang said in a deep voice, I just emailed you. Go take a look for yourself. Zhou Wenbin hurriedly turned on his computer and opened the latest email from Chu Hongguang. When he saw the contents of the email, the last tinge of color on Zhou Wenbin's face disappeared. Chairman Chu, I can explain. Chu Hongguang reprimanded him on the spot. Explain. A few artists under your care jointly reported you for collecting private bribes and violating the interests of the company. There is solid proof. What's there to explain? It's not like that, Chairman Chu. You know a lot of resources and money are needed to groom an artist. I collected the bribes so I could better, don't try to deny it. All I need to know is that you collected bribes. Seeing as you're a senior manager in the company, as long as you return the bribes you collected, the company will not take legal action against you. Chairman Chu. Without waiting for Zhou Wenbin to speak, Chu Hongguang hung up. Zhou Wenbin stared at the phone with a pale face. His body trembled and he slumped into the chair behind him. It's over. This time, it's completely over for me. In Yi Wanwan's office, ever since Yi Wanwan suddenly left the office, Luo Qin had been sitting on the sofa in a daze without moving. Unsure how much time passed, a pair of urgent footsteps appeared before the door was pushed open by someone. The little assistant stood at the door, surprised to see Luo Qin inside. Luo Qin, why are you still here? Luo Qin lowered his head like he had lost all the light in him and said in a hoarse voice, Xiaoqing. I want to return to Zhou Wenbin, huh? What did you say? Xiaoqing's eyes widened. Luo Qin balled his fists so tightly that they turned white. The redness in his eyes was the result of his internal struggle as he declared firmly, I don't want to drag Yi Ji down anymore. Xiaoqing was stunned and quickly said, Luo Qin, you don't know about Zhou Wenbin yet. He's already been fired by the company. Luo Qin seemed like he didn't comprehend what Xiaoqing said as he replied in a state of shock, what did you say? Zhou Wenbin's fired. How is that possible? Xiaoqing immediately told Luo Qin everything that happened upstairs in the makeup room. Luo Qin was completely dumbfounded. His eyes, which were dull and lifeless at first, were now filled with disbelief. Chapter 476, You already have me. While Luo Qin was still listening in a daze, two new footsteps approached the door. It was Yi Bai returning to the office and following behind him was Gong Su. Gong Su had just gotten his makeup done. His entire being was dazzling with brilliance and the office brightened up the second he walked in. Hi, Gong Su. Xiaoqing exclaimed in surprise. Wherever Gong Su went, the stars would twinkle around him along with numerous bodyguards surrounding him. Even though they worked in the same company, the little assistant had never seen Gong Su in such close proximity. Now that she had met him, she was so excited that she nearly fainted. Hello, little sweetheart, pleased to meet you. We're a family now. When Gong Su saw her reaction, he became cockier, revealing faintly discernible little canine teeth when he smiled, causing the little assistant to go crazy. Yu Wanwan coughed lightly and glanced at Gong Su helplessly, indicating to him that he should probably stop. Gong Su then exercised a little restraint. He turned to Luo Chen, who was still sitting at the side in a daze, and raised his brows. Yi Ji, this is the guy under your care, Luo Chen. N. Yu Wanwan nodded, then turned to Luo Chen and said gently, Luo Chen, Gong Su just signed on to work under me, say hello. Gong Su was sitting on the sofa casually. When he saw that Yu Wanwan spoke in a much gentler tone towards Luo Chen, there was an inexplicable uneasiness in his heart. He rubbed his chin and curled his lips. Yi Ji, you have me now, so why do you still need this guy? Why don't you just focus on grooming me alone in the future? Hearing that, Luo Chen, who was about to greet Gong Su, froze. Yi Wanwan's face darkened as well. I really underestimated this Gong Su. He just started working with me and now his true nature's beginning to show. Yi Wanwan immediately shot a look of warning towards Gong Su. If you want to continue working with me, don't let me hear something like that ever again. Gong Su saw Yi Wanwan was angered, so he swiftly brought out his signature smile. Yi Ji, don't be mad, I was just joking. Luo Chen still didn't look too pleased and his face turned dull as well. Yi Ji, let's go have a meal together later. Consider it a celebration of me joining the team. Gong Su suggested unabashedly. Yu Wanwan was tidying up some work from Gong Su's transfer as she replied, another day. I have to deal with some paperwork first. You're busy in the evening? Gong Su asked. Yu Wanwan answered without even looking up, I made plans this evening. What plans? Gong Su asked again, unwilling to give up. A date with my girlfriend, Yu Wanwan replied. Oh, this finally shut Gong Su up. His expression was as listless as a child who was refused his candy. A few hours went by in a flash and the sky started to turn dark. Yu Wanwan saw that it was almost time to go, so she quickly packed up her things then rushed out of the company building. From entering dazzling by solving Han Xianyu's crisis to signing Luo Chen then successfully helping Luo Chen get the supporting role in The Terrifying Dragon sequel and today, surprisingly managing to topple Zhou Wenbin, this greatest enemy of hers, and even signing Gong Su, she had come a long way. After being reborn, she put in so much effort and hard work for so long and things were finally moving in the right direction. At this very moment, she really wanted to share this news with someone. In this split second, the first person that popped into her head was unexpectedly that lonely figure in the night wind. Chapter 477, Darling, Praise Me. The evening wind blew gently and the little garden was filled with the scent of cabbages, citron daylilies and sunflowers. Next to the round table under the shade of the tree, Sihan held a cup of ginseng tea as a sleek white tiger laid next to his feet. At this moment, there was another person sitting at the round table. His features looked somewhat similar to Sihan's and he was wearing a white vintage suit with gold trimmings. He had aristocratic mannerisms and was overcome with boredom as he propped up his head with his hand and complained, Why is ninth aunt still not back yet? What's the matter? Sihan asked coldly. I was looking for ninth aunt, not you. Xia's eyes lit up and he asked, Oh right, I heard that. Ninth aunt recently signed a new artist and he's the leading star in the company, a current popular teen idol. I really couldn't tell that ninth aunt is quite capable, huh? When Sihan heard that, his only reaction was to pause as he held the cup in midair. It was almost impossible to detect any emotions in his eyes. Seeing that Sihan didn't react, Xia was unsatisfied. He asked softly, Oh, I didn't expect that ninth uncle would actually be so trusting to allow ninth aunt to leave and even allow her to recruit one male artist after another. Aren't you afraid of wearing a green hat? There are so many teen idols in the entertainment industry, it's simply tempting to the eyes. Also, ninth aunt is so young, so naturally, she would prefer guys around her age. Ninth uncle, you better not be too confident. Si-han didn't react, but when Su-yi, who was at the side, heard this, his expression immediately turned ugly. This young master Si-xia simply wants the world to burn, huh? Master and Miss Wanwan's relationship just improved slightly, but now Si-xia showed up and started spouting nonsense in front of Master. Is he here to visit the sick or to agitate someone? With Master's current condition, how can he withstand this taunting? Su-yi was helpless since he couldn't disclose the nature of Si-han's real illness, and he could only say, "Young Master Si-xia, you're mistaken. Miss Wanwan disguises as a man." When Si-xia heard that, he scoffed lightly, "So what? When the time comes, she might bring home both men and women." Si-xia continued on like he hadn't noticed Si-han's face gradually turning cold and becoming menacing. "For instance, who's that artist Ninth Aunt recently recruited?" "Oh yes, that flirtatious prince from the Gong family. I heard he doesn't discriminate between guys and girls." Su-yi couldn't tolerate Si-xia's ridiculous remarks anymore. As he was just about to cut Si-xia off, a set of rapid footsteps came from behind him. Su-yi turned around instinctively towards the direction of the sound. Following that, the three people saw a pink figure running towards them like a gust of wind. The girl ignored the presence of everyone except Si-han and ran directly into his arms. Si-han caught the girl colliding into him in a flash, and at the same time, the ginseng tea in his hand jerked violently, almost spilling onto the girl. Si-han frowned. He was about to speak, but in the next second, he felt something soft on his cool lips. Yi Wanwan pounced over, lowered her head immediately and kissed him on his lips swiftly. As she had just run over, she was a little out of breath and her chest was moving up and down quickly. Her eyes glistened like the stars in the galaxy and were filled with life and vigor as she said, "Darling, I'm back. Did you miss me?" The cloud of gloominess around Si-han that arose from Si-xia's comments immediately dissipated the moment she crashed into his arms. Yi Wanwan's bright eyes focused on him. Her face eagerly sought praise as she said, "Quick, praise me. I've been promoted. And I also recruited another artist. Am I awesome or what?" Si-han placed his cup down and held her in his lap, then praised her very obediently, and, "Not bad." Su-yi, who was worried to death his master would be angry, the little young Master Si who thought he had finally been successful in his taunting but who lost his chance before he could rejoice. Chapter 478, Obviously We're Going on a Date. At this moment, out of the corner of her eyes, she saw a velvety white cloud laying next to Si-han's feet. "Great white!" Yi Wanwan exclaimed, "Ow," then got off Si-han's lap. She turned towards the white tiger and pounced on it instantly. Through all her perseverance, pestering, she was now able to get within a one-step radius to Great White and even run her hand along the hairs at the edge of the tiger's body. Si-xia witnessed how Yi Wanwan pacified that great devil and in the next second, extended her evil hand towards slaughter without getting bitten. For a moment, it felt like he was in a dream. Is this person still the ruthless and reckless Si-han who doesn't tolerate the least bit of sand in his eyes? And is this still the slaughter who hates strangers and would tear a person to shreds whenever it wants? Fuck, Si-xia couldn't help but let out a curse softly. Only then did Yi Wanwan lift her head and look over at the person by the side. She said, surprised, Si-xia. Why are you here too? Si-xia's stunning face immediately broke into pieces when he heard that. I was here all along, alright? Are you here to visit your ninth uncle? Yi Wanwan blinked as she asked. Is there a problem? Si-xia replied grumpily. Yi Wanwan immediately asked again, oh, are you done visiting then? Understanding the meaning behind Yi Wanwan's words that she wanted him to leave, Si-xia's face darkened. Yi Wanwan, what do you mean? Yi Wanwan smiled, I mean, if you're done, why don't you hurry back home because I'm going out with your ninth uncle. Si-xia furrowed his brows. Going out? It's so late. Why are you guys going out? Yi Wanwan, obviously we're going on a date. Si-xia was so mad that his heart hurt. I rushed here right after I returned from Shin City. I haven't even had a proper meal and now you're chasing me away. Is this how elders should act? Yi Wan felt a little guilty and she muttered, I didn't say we weren't letting you eat. I'm going on a date with your ninth uncle, so you can stay and have your meal here. I'll get the kitchen to prepare one for you, they'll prepare whatever you want to eat. Si xia, Yi Wan. Yi Wan was roared at by the little devil till her eardrums were sore. Then what do you want, huh? Si xia took a deep breath then said, I want you guys to either stay put or take me with you. Yi Wan turned her head to look at Si Han. Baby, do you mind having a light bulb? The kind that's around 500 watts, Si Han, anything goes. Si xia. Thus, a date between two people became a date with three people just like that. Half an hour later, the car stopped at a mall. Yi Wan had planned to bring Si Han to a very popular restaurant. Before Si Xia left the house, he insisted on getting someone to prepare a casual outfit for him to change into. So now, he was wearing a pair of jeans, sneakers and a pink t-shirt, looking very youthful and vibrant. The three of them together was simply too eye-catching and attracted a lot of stares the moment they stepped out of the car. When they reached the entrance, the restaurant was extremely packed as usual. There were many tables outside and there were many customers waiting in line. A young salesgirl was holding a poster and telling customers that there was a couple promotion at the restaurant. Si Xia glanced at Yi Wan's pink dress and the corners of his lips curved upwards. Then he stood next to Yi Wan and asked with intention, Ninth aunt, look, do we look like a couple? Si Xia and Yi Wan were around the same age and now they were dressed in the same color, they could indeed be easily mistaken for a couple. This troublemaker. Yi Wan panicked and looked at Si Han, then she clenched her teeth and hugged Si Han's arm, beaming, hee, don't we look like daddy and mommy bringing our son out? Si Xia's cheeky grin cracked in a split second. Yi Wan. Go to hell. Chapter 479, Ninth Uncle in Love. Seeing Si Xia so agitated, Yi Wan very kindly placated him, all right, it's daddy and mommy bringing a very handsome son out, is that okay? Are you happier now? Not a single bit. Okay. Si Xia buried his head on the little table and didn't want to speak anymore. Beside him, Si Han sat there in silence, looking at the girl with a crafty fox grin on her face. The iciness in his cold eyes melted away and a faint smile appeared like a light wind blowing across a lake's surface, causing layer upon layer of ripples. Ever since he was severely injured, his temper became more violent and unpredictable. It was as if a roaring, havoc-wrecking wild beast was living inside his body that even he was unable to control, and he could only watch as his own thoughts and consciousness became dominated and corroded, bit by bit. However, those irritable moods became increasingly calmer and he almost couldn't recall when he last raged and lost control. Yi Wan looked at the waitress by the side and inquired, hello, may I know roughly how much longer we have to wait? The waitress looked at their number and replied, at this time, it's the peak hour so it will take longer to get a table. You will probably have to wait another hour and a half. What? That's long. Si Xia immediately stood up. Yi Wan gave him side-eye. My great young master, all the restaurants with slightly better business would require us to wait. Can you stop making a fuss? When do I ever go out without having servants all around me or VIP seating? Now I actually have to squeeze in with so many people and wait in line for so long. Si Xia frowned. Why should we waste our time in line? We should have just gotten Su Yi to arrange things. Yi Wan rolled her eyes at him. Little child who doesn't know what fun is, keep your mouth shut. If she merely wanted to have a meal with Si Han, she could have made reservations at a high-class restaurant, finished eating and left right away. Why would she go through this hassle? But what's the point of going on those kinds of dates? This guy, Si Han, was too otherworldly. This would be the perfect opportunity for him to experience the life of an ordinary human. At this moment, from the corners of her eyes, Yi Wanwan saw the waitress holding something in her hand and she asked excitedly, "Eh? Is that paper for folding lucky stars?" The waitress quickly brought out a few stacks of shiny long strips of paper and said, "Yup, these are meant for folding lucky stars. Our restaurant is having a promotion. Customers that fold 150 little stars will be entitled to a $30 dining voucher. Do the three of you want to give it a try since there's still quite a long wait? What a great deal. We can even get a discount." This was probably a little idea the restaurant came up with in order to retain customers and keep them occupied while waiting. Sure. Give them to me." Yi Wanwan immediately took them. After speaking, she turned to Xia. "What are you sitting there for? Quickly help fold some stars. We'll be able to get a discount of $30. Xia stared at her in disbelief. "Are you kidding me? For $30, she wants me to waste my time folding these?" Then, a low voice came from beside Yi Wanwan. Si Han's long and slender fingers took a pink strip as he said, "How do I fold it?" "I'll teach you, it's very easy. Just watch how I do it, you'll definitely pick it up." Yi Wanwan moved closer to Si Han and guided him step by step. "Got it?" Yi Wanwan asked after she folded a star. Si Han's fingers moved swiftly and very soon, a little star even more perfect than the one Yi Wanwan folded appeared in his palm. "Like this?" Yes. Baby, you're amazing." Yi Wanwan gave Si Han a kiss on the cheek. Xia looked at his cold and revered ninth uncle dressed in an expensive custom-made suit folding little stars at the moment. Do people in love have mental problems? Chapter 480, Can't bear it. She passed a stack of blue strips of paper over. Xia looked at the bright strips of paper in Yi Wanwan's hands, took a deep breath and accepted them reluctantly. What exactly am I here for? The one who folded stars the nicest was Si Han. Each star had a perfect point like it was an art piece. His stars were followed by Yi Wanwan's, which were average, and the worst were Xia's loose and flimsy, ugly, and out-of-shape stars. Si Han used pink strips, Xia used blue, and Yi Wanwan used yellow. The three of them split up the work, and after they were done folding 150 stars, Yi Wanwan immediately called the waitress over happily. "We're done. Miss, you guys folded them really nicely." The waitress looked at the pink and yellow bags of stars and couldn't help but compliment them. However, when she saw Xia's bag, her face twitched a little. Yi Wanwan couldn't stand it as well. The stars in the blue bag were folded quite badly. Can they even be used? Xia was massaging his aching fingers, but when he heard Yi Wanwan's comment, his face darkened. She actually insulted the stars I folded. The waitress coughed lightly and said, "No problem, they can all be used as long as the quantity is enough." Hearing the waitress say that, Xia didn't look so glum anymore. He painstakingly folded so many stars, and if they couldn't even be used, he might really tear down this restaurant. The waitress then took away the 3 bags of little stars, but Yi Wanwan hesitated and stopped her. Wait. "Miss, is there anything else?" the waitress asked. Yi Wanwan thought for a while, then said, 150 stars for $30, so it means 50 stars can be exchanged for $10? That's right. Oh, then, Yi Wanwan kept Si Han's bag of pink little stars, looked at the waitress and said, "We won't exchange this bag then. We'll use just those 2 bags in exchange for $20. Sure." The waitress kept the other 2 bags of little stars. After the waitress left, Si Han turned to Yi Wanwan. "Why aren't you exchanging this bag?" Yi Wanwan held up the bag of little pink stars and her smile blossomed like a flower. This bag of little stars was personally folded by the CEO of C Corporation, master of the C family, right? Of course I can't bear to sell them. I want to keep them as a souvenir. Little stars folded by the great devil are simply too rare, huh? Xia, how could you exchange mine just like that? When it was finally their turn to sit, Si Xia was almost dying from the abuse. The restaurant was packed. There was a deliciously fragrant scent of food in the air, fresh flowers on the table and someone playing the violin in the middle of the restaurant. The atmosphere was lovely. Currently, there were also a female host and a pair of lovers on stage who appeared like they were playing a game. Yuan finished ordering the dishes very quickly, and while they were waiting for the food, she rubbed her chin and looked at the stage. "What game is this?" The waitress who was filling their cups explained, "This game is called telepathy. It goes like this: the host will use a computer to randomly select 10 groups of objects. Each group will contain 2 objects and will be shown on the big screen. The girl will choose one of the 2 objects, then the guy will have to guess which object the girl chose. There will be a total of 10 chances and a total score of 10 points. The couple with the highest score tonight will receive a prize." Chapter 481, I want to play and you have to go with me. Si Xia glanced at the stage unenthusiastically. Boring. Yuan didn't bother with Si Xia. She turned to the waitress and asked, "What's the prize?" The waitress responded, "The customers with the highest score will receive a laptop, and if there's a tie, we'll have a face-off." Couples don't usually get a perfect score for a game like this even if they know each other very well. The highest score on record in our restaurant is 8 points, so we have a rule: if a couple can get a perfect score, they'll receive a grand prize. "What's the grand prize?" Yuan asked instantly. Waitress, $30,000 in cash. They're actually giving out straight cash. This is right up my alley. Yuan was excited the moment she heard that and really wanted to give it a go. However, this thought went by in a flash. Si didn't like showing his face in public. Making him fold those little stars could be considered acceptable, fun even, but pulling him up on stage to play this childish game would be stepping over the boundaries. "Miss, you guys can go up there and try your luck," the waitress prompted. "Thanks, but it's fine, I'm not that lucky." Yuan smiled. Then Si Xia, who was bored to death, suddenly asked, "Hey, do we have to be lovers to play?" The waitress said, "Our restaurant plans some special activities for lovers today, but since you guys came too late, those exclusive games for lovers already ended. This program now is catered for all customers in the restaurant, so you can join as long as there are 2 people in a team. No matter if you're lovers, friends, or relatives, this is open to everyone." Si Xia tilted his head and looked at Yuan. "Ninth aunt, what?" Yuan suddenly had a bad feeling about this. "I want to play and you have to go with me," Si Xia said firmly. Yuan was speechless. "Didn't you just say it's boring?" Si Xia raised his brows. "Now it's not boring, I want to get the $30,000. I haven't had enough money to spend lately." "Who would believe that bullshit?" Si Xia narrowed his eyes. "You're the one who brought me out, are you just going to abandon me like that? As an elder, can't you satisfy this little request of mine?" Yuan was speechless, he made it sound as if she actually wanted to bring him along. "Anyway, you really want to play too?" Si Xia muttered. Yuan denied it instantly, "Says who? I don't want to play at all." "Are you sure? It's $30,000. She didn't even let go of $30 just now, how could she not be moved by $30,000? Si Xia knew very well that Si wouldn't play this game with her, so he egged her on intentionally. Yuan obviously knew this little devil's intentions, so she glared at him fiercely. "I said I'm not playing." Si sipped his tea and didn't look too unhappy. He placed this teacup down and said to Yuan, "Go play." When Yuan heard that, she was somewhat surprised as she blinked and looked at Si looks like Si in a pretty good mood today, huh? He's actually allowing me to play this game with Si Xia." Si Xia immediately said, "We can go now, right?" Ninth uncle already agreed. Before Yuan could respond, Si Xia turned to the waitress and said eagerly, "Please sign us up." When Yuan returned to her senses, the waitress had already signed them up, and at the same time, the previous couple had just ended their game, so they were the next to go up on stage. Chapter 482, How Did You Even Guess? The host's eyes lit up when she saw the three of them. She walked forward and asked, "May I know who's participating in this game?" Yuan pointed at herself and Si Xia. "Both of us." "May I know how the two of you are related to each other?" "Friends." The host initially wanted to ask if they were lovers, but although this girl looked like she could be in a relationship with this boy, she was definitely more intimate with the guy next to her. To prevent Si Xia from speaking nonsense, Yuan swiftly replied, "First, relatives." "I see, great. Then before we start, I need to tell you that the highest score right now is 8 points. The two of you need to surpass this score in order to win a prize. If there's a tie, we'll arrange for a playoff. We'll start right away if there are no other questions." "No problem, let's start," Si Xia prompted. Yuan didn't have a choice and could only go along with him. "No problem. Miss, please hold the remote control in your hands. 2 images will appear on the big screen once the game starts. Please choose one of the images within 3 seconds. Your choice will be revealed after this handsome lad here makes a guess." The host explained the game, then announced the official start of the game. Shortly after, the images on the big screen rotated at lightning speed and slowly came to a stop. There was an image of a black rose on the right and a golden, bright sunflower on the left. With trigger-happy reflexes, Yuan chose the sunflower without a second thought. "This handsome lad here, please make a guess now, which image did she choose?" Yuan stared at Si Xia nervously, awaiting his response. Si Xia glanced at the 2 images then replied firmly, "Black rose." When the host heard that, she had a sorrowful expression. "Sorry, you got it wrong. This beautiful lady chose the sunflower." The big screen revealed Yuan's choice and there was a big check mark next to the image of the sunflower. "This is just the first stage. There are still plenty of chances, so please work harder for the next round," the host cheered them on. Shortly after that, the second group of images appeared, a little yellow chick on the left and a big white tiger on the right. "This is too easy. Obviously the big white tiger. Just by looking at my actions, it should be quite obvious that I prefer the big white tiger. Si Xia shouldn't get this question wrong, right?" "Host, mister, your guess is?" Si Xia, little yellow chick. Yuan, which eyeball of yours saw that I liked little yellow chicks? These 2 questions might have been a bit difficult, let's continue to work hard. The host tried to ease the situation. Now that they had gotten 2 questions wrong, if they got the next question wrong as well, they would not get the prize for sure. Yuan took a deep breath, looked at the big screen and finally, the third group of images appeared. On the left, there was an image of a gun and a bouquet of fresh flowers on the right. Yuan's eyes glistened. "Great, this is easy." Yuan chose the fresh flowers without hesitation then looked at Si Xia with high expectations. Alas, in the next second, she heard Si Xia say, "M416." Si Xia was referring to the model of the gun. The green veins on Yuan's forehead popped out. She finally lost her cool and glared at Si Xia. "What the hell? How did you even guess?" Si Xia was furious as well. "Obviously I guessed according to your preferences. I should be the one asking you. How on earth did you choose?" Listening to his excuse, Yuan was agitated. "What's wrong with my choices? Which girl wouldn't choose a flower over a gun? For the second question, can't you tell how much I like great white? Why would I choose a little yellow chick? Also, for the first question, what the hell is a black rose? It's black in color, who would like it? Didn't you see that I planted an entire garden of sunflowers? You obviously." Si Xia's face darkened. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. Chapter 483, Learning How to Flirt. Once the game ended, Yi Wanwan started to whine to Si Yihan, "This little devil is pissing me off. How could he get such easy questions wrong?" "I didn't get them wrong," Si Xia retorted. "You got all 3 questions wrong, yet you're still denying it." Yi Wanwan exploded. Si Yihan didn't speak. He stroked her head with his big palms to console her, and there was an unreadable expression on his face. As she fought with Si Xia, the atmosphere turned rigid. On stage, the host started to tabulate the scores. Currently, the highest score is 8 points by the pair of lovers at table 23. If no one else takes up the challenge tonight, the prize will go to them. Si Yihan turned to the sulking girl beside him. "Not happy?" Yi Wanwan returned to her senses and smiled. "I'm fine." It didn't matter that they lost, Yi Wanwan wasn't bothered by that. What angered her was Si Xia's attitude. He was obviously the one who guessed wrong, yet he kept pushing the blame onto her. Si Yihan placed his drink down and asked Yi Wanwan, "Play it with me once." Yi Wanwan turned to him, stunned. "What? Play it with him once? How could Si Yihan possibly want to play this game? Which means, he said it on purpose, and he's actually doing it for me." With that thought, Yi Wanwan's heart skipped a beat. Oh dear. Why do I find that Si Yihan's starting to learn how to flirt? Si Yihan gave her a questioning look. Yi Wanwan coughed lightly. "Of course." Si Xia glanced at Si Yihan, then turned away with a stiff expression. "Can we play the game?" Yi Wanwan quickly stood up to ask. The host saw that it was Yi Wanwan who had just answered 3 questions wrong and said apologetically, "Every group may join only once. I'm not teaming up with him this time. I'll be teaming up with my boyfriend, is this okay?" Yi Wanwan asked. The host replied, "That's fine." Hence, the game began once again. Yi Wanwan held the remote control nervously. At the same time, the first group of images appeared on the big screen. On the left was an image of a strawberry cake and on the right was an almond cake. "Almond," Si Xia mumbled. Yi Wanwan didn't listen to him. She stuck to her choice and chose the strawberry cake. "I obviously like eating strawberries, alright." Shortly after, Si Yihan said, "Strawberry." Yi Wanwan's eyes lit up. "That's right." But this question was very easy, it was unsurprising that Si Yihan got it right. "Host, congratulations, that's correct. Please take a look at the second set of images." Following that, the second set appeared. An image of a white skirt on the left and a black skirt on the right appeared. Of course it would be the fairy-like flowy white skirt. Yi Wanwan chose the white skirt with certainty. Si Yihan, white. He got it right again. This time, Si Xia finally shut his mouth. Very soon, the third set of images appeared. On the left was an image of a bottle of wine and on the right was a bottle of orange juice. Yi Wanwan chose the orange juice. Si Yihan, juice. Yi Wanwan was excited, they got 3 consecutive questions right. As expected, lovers are different, they have telepathy with one another and this couple got 3 questions correct so far. The host smiled. Yi Wanwan was all smiles and her mood improved instantly. She certainly had a better rapport with Si Yihan. Chapter 484, Final set of images. On the left was an image of celery and on the right was coriander. Yi Wanwan remembered Si Yihan didn't like eating celery, so she chose the coriander without hesitation. As expected, Si Yihan guessed it correctly once again. If we continue like this, there's hope of getting the prize. At first, everyone was just watching for the fun of it, but they gradually started to watch with rapt attention. Yi Wanwan and Si Yihan actually managed to correctly answer 8 questions back to back. Even Yi Wanwan herself was dumbfounded as she stared at Si Yihan. Damn, Si-han, can you read minds? Si-xia initially had a glum expression like all this was beneath him, but after they got 8 questions correct, his face changed. This pair of lovers is too awesome. They actually got 8 consecutive questions correct. We're now left with 2 questions. If they get another one right, they'll receive the first prize, and if they get both questions right, they'll walk away with the grand prize, the host said excitedly. The other customers also looked at the two of them out of curiosity. A handsome man and a beautiful woman had such a great rapport. They were simply winners in life. For the 9th set of images, please look at the big screen. Following the words of the host, another set of images appeared on the big screen. There was an image of smoke from chimneys spiraling upwards on the left and an image of a galaxy of stars on the right. Seeing these 2 images, Yuanwan pondered for a moment and thought that the first image was more in line with her personality, a comfortable and peaceful life, so that was what she chose. Si-xia muttered to himself, the second image. Yuanwan already heard Si-xia's mumblings numerous times, but he got it all wrong and she was completely speechless. From another perspective, this chap was quite amazing to be able to avoid all the right answers. At the same time, Si-han said, the first image. The answer is correct. My goodness. They got 9 questions right. They've already broken the highest record in our restaurant. Can this pair of super lovers get the last question right? Let's wait and see. I'm getting a little nervous myself. The host took a deep breath dramatically, then revealed the last set of images. Damn. We actually got 9 questions right. Yuanwan was in a daze. Her eyes were wide open and her heart started thumping harder. Finally, the 10th set of images appeared. This set of images was quite unique. They were both images of guns and these 2 guns looked almost identical. Yuanwan was somewhat speechless. Is this game called telepathy or spot the difference? These 2 images look exactly the same. Indeed, the grand prize isn't won so easily. The host was a bit stunned by the images as well. Cough, this set of images is quite tricky. The guns look almost exactly the same, huh? Only the handle and muzzle have some minor differences. I wonder which image this beauty will choose. Yuanwan looked at the images carefully many times. Unsure whether it was her gut feeling or not, but her eyes kept looking at the first image. She found the first image to be more familiar. Weird. Yuanwan couldn't make up her mind after a long time and finally, she decided. Why don't I just rely on my intuition? The first image seems more pleasing to the eye after all. I'm not sure if Si-han will guess it right this time. They got some clues through their rapport and understanding of one another for the previous questions, but for this set of images, they could only rely on luck. Finally, after taking a deep breath, Yuanwan selected the first image. Chapter 485, Telepathy. When Yuanwan heard that, she turned to Si-xia, surprised. This is rare. Si-xia actually guessed it right this time. What a feat. But wait, what's a Colt M2000? Could it be the gun model? What's that? Yuanwan mumbled instinctively. Si-xia looked at her with a complicated gaze. That's the image you chose. Yuanwan, huh? At the same time, Si-han also turned to look at the big screen. The previous few rounds, he was able to answer within seconds, but this time, he took a long time to consider his answer. The man's deep and black eyes stared at the screen with an unreadable expression in his eyes. The host said nervously, "We're at the final set of images. What did this customer choose? I wonder if her boyfriend can guess it correctly. We're left with 5 seconds, you'll need to answer quickly." 5, 4, 3, 2, Yuanwan stared at Si-han with her heart in her throat. In the end, almost at the end of the countdown, Si-han finally answered at the last second, the first image. There was total silence in the restaurant for a second and everyone turned to look at the host. The host was taken aback at first, then her eyes widened as she said excitedly, "Congratulations, sir, you got it right. Yi Wanwan's choice was revealed on the big screen. Indeed, it was the first image. Everyone in the restaurant applauded, they were all very envious. Wow! They actually got all 10 questions correct. They must have a strong bond with one another. This guy knows how to read minds, right? Otherwise, he must have memorized all the questions. No way. There are hundreds of thousands of images, how could he have memorized them? I'm so jealous of them. You bastard, we only got 2 questions right when we went up. Do you truly love me, huh? The host was still very excited when all of a sudden, a staff member walked up to her and spoke a few words. After that, the host turned to the restaurant patrons and explained, our boss is a gun enthusiast. He loves all kinds of classic gun models, and he explained that this set of images wasn't meant to make things difficult for you guys. The 2 guns might have looked identical, but the fact is, one of them was real while the other was a fake, and the real gun was the one in the first image. The host then turned to Yi Wanwan and asked, could it be that this young lady also shares the same interest and identified that the gun in the first image was real? Faced with the host's question, Yi Wanwan laughed helplessly. I didn't know all this. It was just a blind guess. The host laughed. The 2 of you truly have telepathic powers. Congratulations to the both of you for winning the grand prize tonight, and I wish you both a harmonious relationship together till a ripe old age. Yi Wanwan, thank you. The host congratulated them a few more times, then presented the cash prize on the spot. After dinner, Yi Wanwan hugged Si Yihan's arm and left the restaurant in high spirits with their $30,000 prize. Darling, we certainly have telepathic powers with one another, we're a match made in heaven. In her previous life, Yi Yihan was very controlling of her and knew every single thing about her like the back of his hand. In the past, she hated being controlled. But after the little game today, she suddenly felt differently. This feeling of being understood, it wasn't that hard to accept. Instead, it made her feel. Si Yihan stared at the girl's happy little face, but he seemed a bit distracted. As long as you're happy. Si Xia, who was following behind them, sneered with a mocking expression. Tisk, telepathy. Yi Wanwan instantly turned around and glared at Si Xia. I haven't gotten to you yet. How exactly did you manage to avoid getting all the right answers, huh? Si Xia's face turned gloomy. Who said I was the one who was wrong? The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. Yes, at least you got the last question right. And it was because Si Xia knew more about guns and managed to identify the real gun, so he picked the first image. Chapter 486, Unusual. The driver dropped Si Xia off first. After the car stopped, Yi Wanwan took out $100 from the grand prize envelope. Come, eldest nephew, this is your allowance. Si Xia looked at the $100 Yi Wanwan was handing over. His mouth twitched and he was obviously offended by it, but he still took it nonetheless. In the evening breeze, Si Xia stood outside the car and glanced at Si Yihan coldly, then looked at Yi Wanwan. Idiotic woman. As he was scolding her for no apparent reason, Yi Wanwan's face darkened instantly. This little devil is asking for a beating, huh? Without waiting for Yi Wanwan to respond, Si Xia placed one hand in his pocket, turned around and disappeared into the night. After dropping Si Xia off, the car soon arrived at Jean Garden. By the time they reached Jean Garden, it was already quite late and Yi Wanwan started nagging at Si Yihan to go to bed on time. Lying in bed, Yi Wanwan couldn't fall asleep. She kept tossing and turning the whole time, her mind replaying the scenes of the game from that day. Actually, when she made her choices today, there were many times when she nearly chose the opposite image, but in the end, in order to align with her usual habits and preferences and to allow Si Yihan to guess accurately, she decided to go with the other image. But it wasn't weird to do that, right? After all, a person's preferences, habits, and actions could change. But what made her uneasy was that she found Si Xia's reaction a little weird today. Even Si Han's attitude was somewhat unusual. With that thought, Yi Wanwan subconsciously turned to the man next to her. Si Han was very quiet when he slept, as usual. So quiet that sometimes, she could forget he was there altogether. So although they'd been sleeping in the same bed for such a long time, Yi Wanwan didn't find it uncomfortable at all. Sometimes, she wondered if this guy even liked women. She realized her existence was akin to a wooden stick or pillow. Yi Wanwan's thoughts ran wild while she tossed and turned in bed. Probably awakened by her, an arm suddenly reached out next to her and pulled her into his embrace. In that split second, she was plastered to a hard chest. The thumping of his heart resounded like the beating of drums in her ears. Yi Wanwan was stunned for a few seconds, then she looked up. Her eyes met a clear and awake gaze. In the dark, Si Han's stare was extremely aggressive, reminding her of the intense fear she felt before her rebirth, like she was bound by numerous chains and an inescapable net, imprisoning her in his world. This gaze made Yi Wanwan furrow her brows. A desire to escape arose instinctively. Did I wake you up?" Before Yi Wanwan could finish her sentence, Si Han lowered his head without warning. His cold lips swallowed her voice. Yi Wanwan's pupils constricted, she was stunned. At the same time, he started moving. A wide palm dove under her top, his coarse fingers touched her skin and fumbled around roughly. His kisses became increasingly out of control, annihilating her mouth like he was besieging a territory, devouring her lips and tongue as if he wanted to swallow her whole. Chapter 487, I don't plan on having kids at this current moment. She was rudely awakened by all her terrible memories of him. Terrorizing, ruthless, crazy. A perverted desire to control. Si Han hadn't acted like that in a long time. Why did he lose his temper all of a sudden? There was absolutely nothing that happened today that could have possibly ticked him off. On the contrary, it had been quite a pleasant day. With Si Han in this state, Yi Wanwan didn't dare to resist at all. Otherwise, all the efforts she put in this whole time might go down the drain. Not to mention that when she decided not to provoke or disobey him anymore, she mentally prepared herself for this inevitability. "Wanwan," the man whispered in her ear. It was a kind of lust completely different from his usual cold demeanor. Since Yi Wanwan was already so nervous that her nerves were taut, this gentle whisper inexplicably caused her to shudder for a moment. "Remember what I said?" What? Yi Wanwan was terrified. Don't believe him. Don't believe whom? Yi Wanwan's mind was all over the place. She was distracted for a long time before finally reacting to Si Han's words. What he meant was, don't believe what Si Xia says. She remembered that after her rebirth, Si Xia, who had no relations with her whatsoever, suddenly started to get close to her, and it was during that period of time when Si Han said the exact same thing to her, telling her not to believe Si Xia. Yi Wanwan didn't think much of it and only felt a sense of security from Si Han. Her illogical intuition told her that no matter who wanted to harm her in this world, that person would never be Si Han. Yi Wanwan nodded. You're the only one I trust." Her eyes seemed to carry a continuous, mystic drizzle. The hostility in Si Han's body was slowly extinguished by her gaze, and his eyes started to turn clear. It was as if Si Han had just gone through an intensive battle. The storm on his face slowly calmed down and turned into an intense fatigue. Noticing that Si Han closed his eyes, Yi Wanwan let out a long sigh. Why is Si Han so afraid of Si Xia? Yi Wanwan instinctively thought of the true mastermind hidden in the Si family. She had been researching the elders and various power factions in the Si family, but she still turned up with no leads. Could it be that the mastermind is related to Si Xia? Si Xia was one of the few left in the direct line of descendants who possessed the right of inheritance, so it wasn't entirely impossible that he wanted to fight for the seat of the master. It seemed like Si Xia and Si Han's relationship was as incompatible as fire and water. The only thing was that Yi Wanwan felt Si Xia wasn't the cold-blooded type who could hurt even the old madam. With that thought, Yu Wanwan suddenly realized her head was filled with Si Yihan's issues. She had planned to pacify him temporarily and wait until the day he lost interest in her or a chance to leave, but unknowingly, she found herself becoming deeply involved with him. In her confusion, a man's voice suddenly reached her ears. "Grandma is hoping we'll have a child." After she heard Si Yihan's words, Yu Wanwan's eyes widened in shock. What? A child? We haven't even gotten married. How did she even jump to the idea of having a child? Si Yihan sensed her stiffening up and his tone returned to its usual iciness. "Don't worry, I don't have that intention." Chapter 488, Can consider having one. She knew Si Yihan didn't plan on having kids. After all, she was married to him for so many years in her previous life, yet they didn't have any. Is it because he knows he doesn't have long to live so he doesn't want any? In this life, they hadn't even gotten married. With her current status and background, she already upset the Si family's elders by being Si Yihan's girlfriend. If she really became the mistress of the household, she'd definitely be the target of a multitude of arrows. In her previous life, if Si Yihan hadn't been provoked by her running away with Gu Yuze, maybe he wouldn't have married her so soon. He insisted on their untimely marriage, which triggered the opposition of the entire family clan. She remembered that when they got a divorce in her past life, Si Yihan's body was nearing its end. The conflicts in the family intensified till they were irreconcilable. Each faction of power was fighting with the others, everything was in a mess, and they were even attacked by an unknown outside power. In this life, no matter what the considerations were, she didn't want to make a mistake at a time like this and allow things to escalate to that stage again, much less have children. Due to both Si Yihan's current condition and her own issues, they were incapable of assuming responsibility for the arrival of a baby. Yu Wanwan was in a daze. "I don't want any either." The moonlight filtered through the window panes, making Si Yihan's face appear as if it was covered in a layer of frost. Yu Wanwan mumbled, "With our current situation, we're not in a good position to have a baby. It would be irresponsible to have a little life in our hands. Anyway, with your health like this, do you really want me to not only be a widow but a single mother as well?" Speaking up till this point, Yu Wanwan paused, then continued, "If," after saying this one word, Yu Wanwan didn't say anything else. Slight waves appeared in Si Yihan's deathly still eyes, as deep as an abyss. He turned towards her, quietly waiting for her to continue her sentence. Yu Wanwan regretted speaking the word the moment it left her mouth, but he kept staring at her, so she could only cough lightly and finish the rest of her sentence. If your health improves, we can consider having one." The second she said that, the cold moonlight reflected in Si Yihan's eyes seemed to crack into pieces in a flash. His gaze of disbelief was directed straight at her, like it was trying to pry into her soul. Yu Wanwan's heart trembled. She covered Si Yihan's eyes, which was causing her to be flustered, and she urged, "You're not allowed to talk anymore, sleep now." Si Yihan lifted his hand and held her little hand that was covering his eyes, then he placed it on top of his chest. The heartbeat under her palm seemed very fast. After some time, in the quiet night, his hoarse voice resounded, "Okay." His chest moved slightly when he spoke, and the little hand above his chest couldn't help but heat up. Shortly after, his calm and long breaths could be heard. Yu Wanwan's hand was still being held by him and she could feel his rhythmic heartbeat. Yu Wanwan turned and looked at him while he slept, then sighed in resentment. Must he be so obedient? He really fell asleep just like that. Great, now it's my turn to have insomnia. Chapter 489, Health Condition. There was nobody next to her when she woke up. Si Yihan's up already. Yu Wanwan looked at her phone to see that it was almost noon. Since she wasn't able to fall asleep last night, she ended up sleeping in today. Yu Wanwan sat in bed for a while, then rubbed her eyes and got up. When she walked past the study, Yu Wanwan saw two little maids standing by the door, whispering to one another. "Are you sure? Ninth Master immediately drank it the moment you brought it in." "That's right. Ninth Master was working at the time and his face was terrifying, probably because his work was giving him some trouble. I was about to leave and come back later, but in the end, Ninth Master suddenly told me to stop and made me bring the medicine over, then he drank it all without stopping. No way. You're too lucky, huh? Not far off, Yi Wanwan felt a deep sense of relief when she heard that. Someone finally came to his senses. She no longer had to worry about him taking his medication on time. Even the most important thing, sleep, was being resolved. Now, she had to make sure he maintained a calm state of mind. He couldn't be too hot-tempered, agitated or worn out. Not a single thing could be overlooked. All this sounded easily achievable, but they were all extraordinarily challenging when it came to Si Han. The most difficult part was preventing him from getting worn out. Si Han didn't trust anybody, so he handled everything personally. Nothing could be done about this and it was unavoidable. And it was exactly because of this that Si Han overexerted himself till his health deteriorated to this state and his entire soul was sucked out in her previous life. There was no way around it. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Si Han had to bear the responsibility since he was in charge, and it was simply unrealistic to force him to put everything aside right now. Just how can I get him to not overwork himself? Yi Wanwan stood by the door, watching Si Han coughing lightly, and her mood turned gloomy. She didn't have a solution to that problem yet, and she could only nag at him to take regular breaks. I'll think of something when Sun Bai Chao performs a routine body checkup on Si Han later. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the checkup. Yi Wanwan, the old madam, and Si Han went to Sun Bai Chao's private residence for a comprehensive diagnosis of Si Han's condition. At this moment, half a month had passed since Sun Bai Chao predicted that Si Han would be left with only 6 months to live. Yi Wanwan accompanied the old madam and waited outside with a mixed mood. Grandma, don't worry. Ajio has been taking his medications on time and getting lots of rest. His mood has also been more stable lately. Maybe there'll be an improvement. Yi Wanwan comforted her. The old madam knew Yi Wanwan had been by her grandson's side all this time. She patted Yi Wanwan's hand and sighed. Hopefully, Sui stared at the tightly shut metal door with a heavy heart as well. During this period of time, he witnessed how much effort Yi Wanwan put in to help Ninth Master's health recover, but Ninth Master's body hadn't been overworked just a single day or two and it had already started to worsen, so how could he recuperate within such a short period of time? I'm afraid the results this time won't look too good either. What's worse was that news of Ninth Master's illness had been exaggerated and spread throughout the entire family clan. They probably couldn't hide it anymore. After waiting an entire hour, the metal door finally opened. Si Han walked out with a slightly pale look. Ajio. Yi Wanwan instantly walked over to help him. The temperature had dropped the night before and Si Han woke up with a cold that morning. Even though he was merely exposed to the cold for a little while. His body's immune system was indeed weakening rapidly. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.